completely ripped up and he is looking a little distressed, but taking it in his stride. He's a professional mountain biker. They're in the business of denying pain and get fixed up, get back on the bike. It really depends on how he slept last night. If you've got cuts all down one side, you've really got only one side to sleep on, and that can affect your recovery going into the next few days.
But he made reference to the brevity of today's stage, of relative brevity of today's. Yes, it'll be an intense day, so if he hasn't had the best of nights, at least, he's not going to be out there all day. He's got a full day almost to recover once they finish. There's Matt Beers on the left, Alan Hathley on the right, the South African champion, and the under-23 world champion. So we've got both the under-23 world champion and the under-23 World Cup champion racing in this race. Hathley's the world champion. Peter Fagerhart, the young Norwegian riding with Christian Heineck, is the World Cup champion, won 3 rounds of the World Cup, including in Stellenbosch in March last year, round 1 of the World Cup.
Well, Hathley and Matthew Beers have got a healthy lead in the Absa African men's jersey. They have 41 seconds over Marco Joubert and Nico Costens. So a comfortable margin. They can afford to take it a bit easier today.
41 minutes?
Sorry, 41 minutes.
Yeah, would have been a bit nervous with 41 seconds, I think. As Matt Beers and Alan Hathley are about to roll down the start ramp. And we've got Laura standing by for another interview. Let's hear who she's got.
Now the clock is now ticking towards those final 30 seconds.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. How is it going? How is it going to be the day today?
Yeah, good morning. It's probably going to be hard. Start to feel like we have done a couple of stages and yeah, just get going. I think it's going to be a good day.
How's been going this first part of the race so far?
First stage was really hard. I had to suffer a lot and after 3 hours I was kaput, but then it's better and better, so yeah, I think it's going to be nice.
Do you expect a good result for today?
Yeah, hopefully. We'll just keep a steady pace and do our best and yeah, full gas, and hopefully it's enough for a good result.
Thank you, good luck. Thanks. We are back to the studio now.
Christian Heineck are waiting to load. They're just, I think, behind. There they are, behind Alan Hathley and Matt Beers. This day really does suit this pair. Remember how well they were going in the prologue on Table Mountain before they had that unfortunate the last couple of kilometres on Beers' bike.
Myself, they have a 23-minute lead over Mbuko Giant. It is comfortable. They will be able to afford a little bit of an easier day today, and that recovery very important for Matt Beers. Certainly had a bit of blood on him yesterday and will affect his sleep, as we said. Just want to hopefully just take today at its stride and survive another day, because stage 5 is a big day, Joel.
Absolutely, it's the Queen stage tomorrow as we head to Stellenbosch. It's 3-minute intervals between the starters now, and so a bit of time between them. And the speeds that these guys go, it's incredible. Fagerhart and Christian Heineck then will leave in just under 3 minutes' time, and then it's Jochen Kerst and Daniel Gasmaier behind after them. Damiano Ferrara, Samuel Poro, Ursuba, Simon Stipjan, Nina Schurter, Lars Forster, and the yellow jerseys on the shoulders of Canada Factory Racing, Manny Furmic and Henrik Avicini. They will leave last at 7:39 local time, 7:39:30, beg your pardon. Laura, let's go back down to the start. Laura.
Daniel, we've seen your team riding very strong today. What can we expect from you?
Yeah, I think we are feeling better from day to day, especially Jochen. And he had some problems the first and the second day. And yesterday it was okay for us, and we could also make some time again. And I think, yeah, it will be a good day for us again. And also to Stellenbosch, I think we can maybe gain some time again. And yeah, for sure, to the front guys will be hard to close up the gap, but I think we can do a good result in the end.
The Absa Cape Epic doesn't give a rest for the riders, right?
Yeah, for sure. Also today we have to wake up really early, and yeah, it's a tough race for sure. It's for sure the toughest one mountain bike race you can do in the world.
Thank you. Good luck for today.
Gesmeyer and Jochen Kess, loads of experience there, and a team that have just kept themselves in the frame. And this combination is amazing because on the left is a 38-year-old Christian Heineck, a former winner of this race. So calm and composed and relaxed, and he's got this young man alongside him, a 21-year-old firecracker, Peter Vargaard, who's a cross-country sensation.
16 years age difference between them, that's the age of the race. So a significant gap there, but it looks like there's some good dynamics there. And Christian Heineck's future career is in developing cycling and doing it right at the highest level of the sport here. Christian Heineck, a former winner of the race, he came in as a rookie, rode with Robert Mennen, and won the race. Dramatic race that was. We saw some major mechanicals from his side, so he knows exactly how to manage disaster, and he can pass on all that knowledge to his young teammate.
Robert Mennen, there's a name to conjure with, and the buck. He was the man who crashed into the buck. Away goes Peter Vargaard and his partner Christian Heineck there, 17 minutes and 41 seconds behind in 6th place on general classification as they head into the time trial. It'll be an interesting battle this because Vargaard is a short race specialist. Heineck is not. So managing
it's not a battle between these two because they're teammates, but yeah, it'll be an interesting combination to see how they manage the pacing of the time trial.
Right, let's go down to Laura as Gesmeyer and Kess are on the start. They've got a couple of minutes tonight. Here's Laura.
Samuele, good morning, buongiorno. What do you expect for today's stage? Which are the key points of this time trial?
Well, we don't know because it's really strange to have a time trial during a stage race. So we keep pushing all out for all the day, and we will see to the end.
Do you think you can get a spot in the podium today?
Well, I don't think it's the right stage for do it because maybe a lot of team have some rest yesterday, so we must push a lot for the overall. Maybe today it's a little bit difficult.
Thank you.
Quite interesting, Buzz. Quite interesting because the Trexella San Marco pair of Samuele Porro and Damiano Ferraro in 4th place, but they're just 11 seconds behind 3rd place, the Bulls. So that's going to be a race there.
That will be a good battle. It's interesting to hear them say, on one side, tactically, well, let's just go all out and see where you come out at the end because it is relatively short compared to what they've been doing.
Yeah.
But also, there's been some teams taking, in inverted commas, day off, going a little bit easier. And I'm just looking at the time at the first water point, and Andre Sink and Sergio Mantecon had the fastest time there by over 2.5 minutes so far. They're a team who have gone out hard, taken a hot spot yesterday, then had a mechanical failure and just cruised for the rest of the day through the stage. So this could be the day that riders with the fresher legs who've taken a day easier can come out and really aim for a stage win. So there's a battle on two fronts: stage win and then those battling for the overall.
The GC battle is arching up. We've got certainly it's almost a head-to-head, you could say, between first and second at the moment. We've got Cannondale Factory Racing, Scott Swan, and they're within 2 minutes 41 of each other, and that's for the top step of the podium. But the real battle now is developing for the 3rd step. That's between Bulls and Trexella San Marco. They're not truly cross-country specialists. They're both more or less in the same category as marathon races. Interesting to see how they do today, because today really is a test of the legs and a test of the ability to pace themselves. Gesmeyer and Kess head off. Winners of the Swiss Epic in 2017. They know all about marathon racing and they know about measuring their efforts. Today will be all eyes on them to see what kind of time they post, because they're also ominously moving up that leaderboard.
And there's just 30 seconds between them, less than 30 seconds between them and Heineck and Vargaard as well in 5th and 6th. So there's a little battles going on down the GC leaderboard. Let's go back to Laura in the start chute.
Urs, how are you this morning? You are already in the podium, so are you confident about today?
Yeah, for sure. We feel good after yesterday, the 2nd place yesterday and 3rd in the overall now. It's a big motivation and gives us confidence for today, for sure.
What do you think can happen today?
I think it would be really hard today because it's just short, so you have to go full gas from the start to the finish. But yeah, I think we're in a good shape and on a good way, and yeah, looking forward for today.
But you are always riding full gas in the Absa Cape Epic.
No, because on the long stage you have to manage very well with the power you have, and because it's also the next day is coming. But today, I think today is the day you have to go full gas for sure.
Thank you. Good luck.
Urs Huber with a broad smile there, looking quite relaxed. You don't often see Urs looking so relaxed. He's got Simon Stipjan alongside him, who started out as a cross-country man, but very much a marathon racer now on Team Bulls. And a team that I think for the Bulls, they'll be very pleased being on the podium at this stage of the race.
Absolutely. It's halfway through the race, being in the position they are, Neil. It's a great performance so far. And he says we're not always going full gas, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It's a good sign that they're able to be aware of their efforts and measure their efforts. They are marathon racers, very much a marathon team, not really focused on the UCI World Cup circuit. So they're specialising in these long format races, and throughout the year we hope to see them at the likes of the Pioneer and the Swiss Epic, see what they can do on in different parts of the world.
So Ferraro and Porro, the Trek Sellers Marco team, and they have stolen their way nicely into contention here, and they could be a threat today. And yeah, they're the ones who are looking to make up that time on the Bulls heroes. Urs Huber and Damiano Ferraro, just 11 seconds between them on the GC. These two need to make up that time today, and they'll could be on the podium.
Just talking about the time trial, it is a slightly different format in terms of exactly what kind of physical effort you're putting out. People have been saying it's full gas, but it actually can't be full gas. You've really got to pace your efforts, and people talk about time trialing as an art. It takes a lot of experience. Even the very finest time trialists on the road get it wrong. They all scout the course very carefully and know exactly, do they go 95% on the climb or do they go 96%? What kind of a gain are they going to get out of going full gas or just backing off a little bit? And certainly is a very, very specialist technique to get your effort absolutely perfectly. The idea is to empty your tank. The moment you cross the line is the moment you're empty.
But riding a time trial in a mountain bike stage race is then again quite different to riding a time trial on the road. On the road you look to just have that rev counter needle just hovering right on the edge of the red zone and keep it there the whole way through. And it's quite an even effort, uphill, on the flats and the downhill, even power all the way through. However, on the mountain bike, you've got such steep technical descents that you are not pedaling, so you can afford to go a bit deeper into that red zone on the uphill, almost blow yourself up as you get to the top, and then you get to take a breather and your legs get to recover just a little bit on those downhills. So it's a real mix of power and skill and judging how deep you can go and then recover from that burst. So it's a lot more up and down the tempo.
Well, we're getting down to our last two teams. This is the third place team, Stipjan and Huber of the Bulls Heroes, the Bulls Legends of Platt and Lecarte. We saw them roll off a little bit earlier, but now it's down to the two top teams, the Scots Ram team and the Cannondale Factory Racing team. Let's hear from one or two of those with Lara.
Lars, how are you feeling this morning after yesterday's stressful stage?
Yeah, I actually feel quite good. I hope the legs recovered fine, and I have a good feeling, and the time trial suits as well, so we're looking forward.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you expect from the leaders team?
I think today it won't make a big difference. I think on these trails everybody's a bit same fast, especially Cannondale and us. So I think the race will be decided next more days.
Thank you, good luck. Thanks.
Lars saying that the remaining days will perhaps play a bigger role in the outcome here. This is going to be a fascinating battle though. 2 minutes and 41 down. There's now 3-minute gaps, and there's no shortage of spice between those top two teams at the moment, and that's just what you want at a race, a bit of intense rivalry.
The intense rivalry is touted by the media, touted by fans, and what's interesting is that two are starting to get under each other's skin. It's not just for the show, not just for the crowds. but a little bit of antagonistic actions going on. We can see that Nino's just a little bit riled after yesterday. Enrique, no doubt, is smiling just a little bit extra broadly, hoping that Nino's watching. And this starts to antagonize. When they antagonize each other, it could have a deadly effect on their teammates, because if they're going too hard, they could very easily blow up their teammates, and maybe that's all part of the plan.
Great challenge, great contest it is. As the Bulls head off, you saw Urzuma there just missing a cleat in there as he left the start ramp, and he's safe and sound on the route. Here they are, the European champion Lars Foster and the world champion Nino Schurter. We haven't seen him in those jerseys since Sunday when they were racing around the prologue course. They've been in yellow since then, but not today.
Well, we have to wonder how many of those jerseys they brought with them. They maybe expected to wear yellow all the way through, and let's hope that they've brought a few, because today they've got to make up 2 minutes 41. That's a lot of time to make up in a time trial of 40 kilometers. They might have to be wearing the same jerseys tomorrow again.
Yeah, I think they'll be realistic about it and be thinking they can take back some time, but not all of that time over a course of this nature and just 43 kilometres. It is pretty tough, 1,000 metres elevation over 43 kilometres, and having ridden the back half of the course, and it provides opportunities for riders who are feeling good to take time, but that's a lot to take back on the likes of Fumic and Avancini.
Quick change of position.
It looks like it might be Nino leading off. He's on got the inside line to turn one.
Right, let's, as these two wait to go off, let's go down and hear from the yellow jerseys with Dara.
Manuel, how is it important to work as a team for today's time trial?
I mean, this is one of the crucial stages. In the past, it always showed open up some quite big gaps. So we're going to be really sharp and focus on this one, because we want to really attack this this stage and try to maybe get some time into the contenders. And no, but it's not going to be easy, but we're good to go.
What do you expect from the rivals?
Well, the rivals, of course, they have to attack, because they have to chase us and get some time back from there on. And I think it's going to be full committed today.
Which one do you think are the key points of the stage?
Well, I mean, there are a few key points, you know, it's just 40k. They're not really key points, the whole stage is a key point.
Thank you, good. Thank you.
No question about what they're going to be about today. He's
43 kilometres, a 2-hour effort. Yeah, it's pretty much a sprint, says Manuel Food.
Well, here we go. The world champion Nino Schurter and Lars Foster of Scottstrand MTB heading out on the mid-race time trial at the Absa Cape Epic. It's been brought a great dynamic to the event, and it brings different teams and different riders into play. And let's see how these two handle it.
One of the biggest challenges in fact, in the race is someone finding the right partner for Nino. He's the strongest in the world. He's almost unbreakable as a rider. And the point is just really who you find to ride with a guy like that. It's a big responsibility riding with the world champion, riding with who many refer to as the best ever cross-country racer. And Lars Foster's done very well up until now.
He has been so far so good. There were 3 from 3, and only that puncture, that long mechanical yesterday that brought them undone. But Foster's been up to the challenge so far, but the real work starts from now, midway in the race. The back end is going to be twice as hard as the first few days.
Now the course today is nothing like the rough terrain that they endured yesterday, going up Lieberberg and then up Kronlandberg and down the other side and the neck. It's a lot smoother. These are pretty much manicured trails. They're in pretty good shape, but that doesn't discount what can and sometimes happens. A stone or a rock pops out, as we saw with Matt Beers yesterday on a wide open road. He fell and hurt himself. So those things can happen, and so they've got to be aware of that.
I was just about to mention the warm-up and how critical it is, and we see some of our elite women, and there's Annika Langvall in the back of shot, on the rollers doing their warm-ups, and quite a lot of riders in the dark this morning pre-race that didn't have rollers with them. They're out on the road out towards the entrance of the Oak Valley estate here, but getting the warm-up right and starting early enough, so a lot of preparation goes into the time trial, up really early, eating, have everything digested, a really good warm-up, because if you go off the start line, your legs blow up a bit, your muscles are not quite warmed up properly, you are going to lose massive amounts of time. So it's tempting to not do it properly and not do a long warm-up because you're already so fatigued from the days of racing, but it is just so critical.
Well, part of being a professional rider, you have to deny the luxuries of everyday life, and one of those warm-ups is one of those essential things that you just absolutely have to do, and you have to do it properly.
There's a moment between Abacini and Fumic. They are good friends, they are trade teammates, they ride around the world in the World Cup circuit, and they've been at this race now their third year together. They built up a really good friendship, and you sense there's a good camaraderie and communication vibe between the two.
Our team that we've got our eye on today is Team Crossspur. That's Mantikon Gutierrez and Andre Chink. It's going to be interesting to see what sort of times they post. We have got an initial time check at 13 kilometers. They're 1 minute 14 seconds ahead of Memamar, the factory racing. Still the main teams to come. As you can see that the yellow jerseys are still on that start ramp. They've got a bit to go, at least half an hour to go before they will hit that time check. So we'll be looking at what the really fast teams are doing at that time check, at that 13 kilometer mark.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a time trial like this. As away go the yellow jerseys. Ulrich Avancini leading out Manuel Fumic on this 43 kilometer test against the clock, against themselves and against their rivals, their equipment. It all comes into play at the Absa Cape Epic, and nothing is left to chance. As we will follow this group, and as many as we can, the women, the leading women will be setting out behind them in the order with the slowest of the teams right away to the leaders, Anna van der Breggen and Annika Langveld. But this is the early phase of the men's leaders' effort around the 43k course.
So the long shadows, is really early start in the morning. Really, I think they'll probably welcome finishing really early as well. They'll be by the time we hit 10 o'clock, they'll be in their showers. They'll have had their recovery shakes, and just a little bit, just an extra hour or so to put the legs up and enjoy the rest of the day, and also do some planning for tomorrow. What their tactics will be tomorrow will be interesting after today's play out.
They swing through the beautiful oak trees, of which there are thousands on this appropriately named Palm Oak Valley. Heading up past the old school classroom and through the orchards on the right hand side. Apples are the main fruit grown on these trees here, but obviously there's plenty of great vineyards, there's wine, there's flowers as well they do on Oak Valley.
And also running a few cattle as well,
yep,
out there in the fields. And yesterday when I was out there riding, I came across a small group of Bontebok from the antelope family. So I felt like I was a little bit on safari. I was glad I didn't come across a Cape leopard. I've heard they are out there.
Up in the mountain.
I have been looking over my shoulder a couple of times just in case. You know, I'm not going that fast up the hills. But for these riders, straight uphill out of the start, a couple of quick turns and up the farm tracks, but a drag uphill before they get to descend just a little bit into the area they call the Anfiteatro.
Yeah, so they head up out of Oak Valley. The neighbouring farm is Paul Cluver, and in that is the Anfiteatro, which they'll go through twice. They'll go through it once at around 5 kilometres. They'll do a big loop and then come back through there, which is where the big water point for the day is. A little indication there from the Avancini. We're turning right, and up they go. So yeah, they'll go through that Anfiteatro, which is a fantastic spectator vantage point. I don't know how many there'll be out there this time of the morning, but later on in the day, friends and families, it is going to be a great vibe out there for everyone.
So far the crowd's been huddled down here at around the start. It's clear skies and it's sunny, but it was quite fresh. It was about 9 or 10 degrees when the riders were heading off, and now the sun is getting higher in the sky with the temperatures climbing up, and they're going to have something up around to 23, 24 degrees today. So it'll go from jackets and beanies and hoodies to t-shirts and flip-flops.
Yep. We saw some of the riders. They were wearing their trade team jackets, a little warm sort of neoprene type of material. They really keep nice and warm at the start, so they don't use a single extra kilojoule of energy trying to stay warm. All their energy is saved in their legs, and not necessarily because they're freezing cold at the start, just they don't want to emit one single degree, keeping absolutely everything for the big effort that's to come today, the 40-kilometer time trial.
Of course, it is Human Rights Day here, so a public holiday for everyone in South Africa. It's an opportunity to take a break from the office and work, school, whatever it might be, and get back and enjoy. If you can't get here, enjoy the coverage here. Otherwise, come and enjoy the great outdoors and the spectacle of the world's finest mountain bikers racing around the Western Cape. This is still with our race leaders, and it's the drag all the way up onto Paul Cluver. And this is not a particularly steep drag, but you were referring, Robbie, to the unrelenting nature of these climbs. They're short, sharp climbs all the way through this. There's very little opportunity. There are very few free Ks.
Yeah, there are very few indeed. This first part is, the climbs are a bit more flowing. They're not as steep when they go out this first big loop. Because particularly the second half of this course gets very steep, and they ride their way up to the Groenland Falls. You see the front wheel up and off the ground, so really whipping the biker out of that hairpin bend for Enrico Avancini. Race leaders there in the yellow jerseys, and way off in the distance they may catch a glimpse. No, not even. The gaps are quite big between.
Yeah, 3-minute gaps, yeah.
It really is a solitary effort, team against team, and you have really no indication of where the others are.
Well, the indication that you might have would be really only at the time checks. So,
right, let's now leave the leading yellow jersey riders here and head down to the start. And at the start is Laura.
Good morning, Marike. How is the team? Ready for today?
Yeah, I think we're ready. Looking forward to a short stage. It's been a few tough days.
How do you think it's going to be today?
It's going to be hard. Actually, you go harder the shorter it is. So it's going to be, but it's a nice route. Lots of single tracks and lots of fun.
And after today's stage, you are gonna finish very early. So how is the afternoon gonna be for you? It's important to rest, I can imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to a longer recovery and maybe get some more sleep and a longer massage and everything, and a bit more rest.
Sounds good. Good luck. Thank you.
To Laura, that keeps us up to date on the women. Will be popping in and out of there periodically. That was Mariska Strauss and Jenny Sternerhach, and they are currently in 4th place on general classification, and they're keeping themselves in the picture. Fair Tree Silverback. Out of the saddle, up the climbs here for Manuel Fumic and Henri Cavazzini.
So they'll be getting some time checks at the 13-kilometer mark. They'll have their team dotted around the route. One thing that we've really noticed about this pairing, and in fact their backup team, there's 8 crew members, and they have spent a lot of time planning for this race exactly, and it'll entail having all of the backup crew or certain people at certain points in the race telling them exactly how far. They have the luxury of starting last, so they will have the time split of Nino Schurter and Lars Foster.
Which is who we're seeing on screen. A little bit of feature breakup. You must understand we're quite a remote area, getting right up against the mountains there, but Nino and Lars seems whipping through those corners and giving it absolutely everything. You've got no measure of what the others are doing, and they really want to take back the biggest chunk of time possible.
Steady effort from Fumic and Avancini as they start their time trial. Let's pop down to the start again with Laura.
Ariane, today we have this short stage, but do you think it's also a key stage in the race?
I don't think you can make up that much time, but yeah, it's always like every stage counts, you know, and you can always make a mistake and lose time. So I guess we just have to be very smooth through the trails and try to feel the rhythm of the trail, especially.
How are you feeling this morning? Did you have time to have some rest and recover?
Yeah, definitely. I would say right after the stage I was feeling pretty broken and thinking like, oh, how is tomorrow going to feel? But I actually managed to have a very good night and feel a bit fresher.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ariane Luti there, and a brief glimpse of the yellow jerseys powering along. And this may be Ferraro and his partner, Poro, the Trek Celis and Marco team. And they are looking, as you see behind them, the team chasing them as well. So there will be opportunities on some of the early parts of this course as it opens up to be able to see the teams either ahead or If you glance behind you, might catch a glimpse, and there's nothing like that to get the afterburners going. You see the team behind you.
Things getting a little bit tighter at the top of the table through water point 1, our first time check of the day. Still Andre Sig and Sergio Montecon, the cross-spur team with the fastest time. It's just 22 seconds behind. It's Meha and Catania, the 7C CBZ team. So they're pushing hard, 22 seconds off, but of course our top-ranked teams on the overall classification yet to come through and post a time. That'll be our first good indicator after around half an hour of racing and about a third of a way into this time trial.
Right, let's now catch up with the women's team, the second team on GC. And there's Candice Lill and Adelaide Morant. They trail by 23 minutes and 43 seconds.
Adele, time trial day for you here at the Absa Cape Epic. What do you expect can happen?
I think every day we try to do our best. So today it's a more shorter day, and yesterday it was a quite hard stage, so we will look what the legs have left.
What do you expect from the leaders team, from Annika and Anna?
I think they will smash it again, maybe. So I think a lot of teams will try today, but yeah, we will see which team will be in front today.
The legs?
I feel the days before, but luckily we have a good physiotherapist, and they help us out. Yeah.
Thank you, good luck. Thank you.
Here we go, that is Adelaide Morant and Candice Lill in second place for Team Summit. A nice reception there for the Polish champion on the left there, Maja Wostowska and Ariane Luthi of Cross Spur Racing. Back to the men in the time trial. I keep wanting to say prologue, it's not, it's the middle of the week. And this is Avancini on the front and Fumich behind him. This route is littered with a lot of A-frames around these farm trails.
The professionals will have no problem tackling this. This is what they do. Some of the amateurs have come unstuck on those sections. You have to hit them at a bit of speed. The real danger is if you hit them and you don't quite make it all the way up, and it really slows you down when you hit them. And if you're not quite getting your front wheel over that little hump, you can come unstuck pretty quickly.
When you're in the middle of one of the Epic's really long, tough stages and you're completely fatigued, an A-frame like that can seem like a mountain. Yeah. It seems like a climb on its own. You know you have to just power into it. They're a little bit dangerous actually when you're coming downhill and you've got one of those fence crossings in the A-frame. You hit it too fast, you're absolutely going to launch off the other side and in real danger going up and over the handlebars. So sometimes you have to just use a bit of discretion, brake, even though you don't want to, you'd love to hold speed, but staying upright is number one.
You're going to be watching with interest to see the proportion of work that Enrico Avancini does at the front. It's often an indicator as to who the stronger partner is, and looks like it's Avancini today.
Well, he's certainly doing the work early. Let's go down to hear from the race leaders in the women's race.
So we have quite an advantage in the general now, so we try to make it safe through the day, have some fun on the single tracks, and hopefully go fast but safe.
How do you think it's going to be for the rest of the rivals?
Well, I think the numbers 2 and 3 are really going to fight for that spot on the podium. So they will go fast today. Hopefully we can save a bit, recover today, and then for sure after it will be fighting again in the other stages.
Thank you, good luck. Thanks.
Anna van der Breggen and Annika Langvol, the leaders by 23 minutes already in the women's race. Difficult to see them make any mistakes today, Robbie.
It is difficult to see that, but you do never know. I mean, you're always so close to something going wrong in this race. But just interesting to hear Anna van der Breggen say, the second and third are really going to be fighting hard for those spots, as if to say, well, we know they're not going to get close to us. But she also said we'd try and just ride a nice even tempo and find a little bit of recovery today. I still expect them to win the stage, but maybe not going out and smashing the field as they have in the other stages. And sure, they'd love to win, but they're not intent on increasing the gap by a lot today.
robust, psychologically imperious in her analysis, talking about the other teams shouting out for second and third. That's really the right attitude you want to be having when you are the world's best.
But behind her, you see the focus of Anneke Langwall, checking the equipment, checking on the suspension, sitting on the front, and then doing her shoe up even tighter again, and just checking different things on the bike. That complete focus that she has is just like an assassin of the rest of the teams.
And never resting on her laurels. I think that's the key to success in this, is that you never stop preparing, you never stop planning, and it's a matter of pretending that you're behind to stay ahead.
Candice Little and Adelaide Morat, Team Summit, are on the course now, the second last of our women's elite teams, as we are hanging over the top of Nino Schurter and Lars Forster. Lars Forster was doing quite a lot of the work early on. And now it's Nino's turn. And Lars Forster has done a fair amount of work during this event. I think a couple of years ago when he won with Matthias Sternemann, we saw Nino pretty much piloting that ship all the way through the course. But Lars Forster, he's a very, very strong rider in his own right and has done a lot of the hard work on the front. Fumic, who's a little behind. Where's his partner? Ooh, now there's a sign.
Well, has that been a mistake, or is it just that the legs aren't cooperating at the moment? So I haven't seen him just holding back and waiting at the moment. It'd be interesting to know if that was a mistake or a mechanical or just a physical problem.
Sort of look down, and that's always a telltale sign from a rider. Looks down at his equipment and suggesting that there may have been some malfunction, brief as it was, but that in a time trial like this, it can be costly.
Well, it really is only up to the riders themselves. They've got no one else to blame. If there's no other riders that can knock a derailleur or flick up a stone into their spokes or anything like that, it's all about they can manage their efforts and their risk completely on their own. I don't think we'll see too many mechanicals necessarily on a time trial like this. The racing's not quite as tight, not as close, but still, having said that, anything can happen. It could be a little stone or a piece of steel or something lying in the trail that they won't see. But the risks are far lower in a time trial for sure.
Well, all seems to be back in order at the moment. I was just trying to take a closer look and see if Fumic is still looking down or testing how he's pedalling, how the bike seems to be running, but they look to be back on track. Maybe it was just a mistake in the trail and foot out of the pedal. It can be something just as simple as that. Well, let's see what we're here. We're getting a replay.
Yeah, let's see what this might give us an idea. There we go. He's off.
He's fallen.
Did he fall there? On his bike. And off he goes. So yeah, he had a little bit of a washout with his front wheel, went down coming out of the Paul Cluver Bike Park, and that was a costly little fall.
It does happen so quickly. I mean, you're riding on the limit, you're really pushing with everything you've got. It looks like he just got his front wheel just off the edge of the track, and it goes away from you very, very quickly when it's sandy like that. So no harm done, no mechanical, and I'm sure it won't be the last little mishap we see from the teams out there on course as they're pushing to the limit.
It'll be a big relief for these two that nothing has gone wrong, there's no permanent damage, nothing that will affect their performance. But what could affect their performance is how they approach it. They don't want to need to just relax, give them a fall, and a little bit of adrenaline rush when you get back on the bike. And it's important not to try and go too hard in case you blow up. We've got the Bulls heroes. Trade reports from the course that the Bulls legends have been pretty slow out there today. It looks like they're still not aiming for that GC spot. They're going to be taking it a little bit easier today, so they can ride in support of this team here, the Bulls heroes.
Another update from our first timing point, so still Sink and Munticon leading, 22 seconds ahead of Meja and Catania. Matthew Beers and Alan Hatherley, they're third best at the moment through that time check, 54 seconds behind, and then it is Carretero and Murcio Vergara at 57, so things getting pretty tight at the top, but they're already fairly significant gaps after just 13 kilometres of racing.
The Bulls heroes up this really steep incline. Look how bent over the handlebars to get maximum power out of those pedals and take their way up. So Zur Super and Simon Steve Jump, third on GC at the moment. It could be under threat from Trek Salas and Marco today because they're just 11 seconds. The Italians are in fourth place. This is the race leaders, it is. The Cannondale Factory Racing Pair.
Now Mancini, just careful not to go too hard, probably just checking to see how Fumich is doing. There'll be a couple of questions, are you okay, everything alright? And just some confirmation from Fumich that everything's back on track. Slight delay, could have delayed them by 15, maybe 20 seconds, that little fall of theirs. Not ideal, but all is not lost.
2 minutes and 41 is the number, the time between this pair and Nino Schurter and Lars Forster, who started out 3 minutes ahead of them.
We've just looked at their equipment today. They're not wearing their hydration packs, so it's pretty clear that those hydration packs are not just for the convenience of having to not take the hands off the handlebars. It is definitely a nutrition strategy to counter the efforts of Scott. Looks like it's really a water point. It's a water point strategy, in fact.
Yeah, we've seen them use it in different ways. The first day they used them early on and then discarded them, and yesterday they took them on a mid-race and then they didn't stop once they took those hydration packs.
And it worked out perfectly too, because the situation of the race with the Scots-Round team having that mechanical and being up to 9.5 minutes behind, well, it really gave Avancini and Fumich an extra advantage to skip a water point and go all the way through to the finish without stopping. And then we saw that really illustrated perfectly when Scots-Round got to the last water point, 10 kilometres to go, and they had to stop. They had to stop in, grab a cup of water just to wet the whistle and then keep pushing through, but it did lose them another 15 seconds. So it really, they'd been worth their weight in gold, those hydration packs, and weight is why a lot of riders don't want to carry them.
Yep.
But I think it's been a great move tactically by Cannondale.
And the fact that they're switching it around, they're not always putting it at the same water point, perhaps keeps the Scott guys guessing as to when it's actually going to happen, which water point they are going to skip. And tactically, this is playing into the hands of the Cannondale team. All part of planning and the great preparation that the team have put into this race.
That's the fourth place team we were seeing, the Trek Sailor San Marco pairing of Ferraro and Porto. And that battle is going to be so intense, just 11 seconds the gap from them up to third place, the Bulls heroes, Urs Huber and Simon Stibian.
Porto on the front here. He's a marathon specialist, 5th at the World Champs, so this is his game, marathon racing. Perhaps not quite the shorter burst, but with 11 seconds you feel that they will be breathing down the neck, if not overhauling Urs Huber and Simon Stibian today. Race leaders in the yellow jerseys, Fumich and Avancini, and one, as we referred to, one breathing really hard up this steep bit.
The speed is deceptive. They are putting down some power. It just shows how steep and how tricky this section of the course is. You can measure their efforts perfectly. So they hit that top. As Robbie was saying, they just want to get into the red zone just as they hit the top, and then they've got a bit of time to recover. If the lactate levels decrease, they can be ready for the next steep incline.
Well, I've just seen on that time check there that Geismar and Case have now gone through checkpoint 1, and they've gone in front of Beers and Hatherley, so they're third fastest through there at 53 seconds behind our current leaders at that checkpoint, Sink and Munticon.
We heard some of the teams, one of the teams in fact was saying that, that there'll be some fresh legs out there, riders who haven't necessarily put in maximum effort. Team Cross Spur, you could say took a day off yesterday. We saw them riding with the women's category riders, the women's category leaders. So it means that they obviously knew that there was a problem. They weren't going to make up. They were way behind on GC already. Just wrote off the day, said if there's another day that we can win a stage, rest their legs, and it looks like today is their target.
Yeah, well, here's what they've been doing. We talk about our top teams, but Cross Spur sitting in 33rd position overall, 2 hours and 4 minutes behind the lead. So they've had 2 days where they've lost a huge amount of time. They lost an hour the other day, but somewhere in between they've lost another hour. So yeah, we saw them yesterday. They came out firing and won that first Dimension Day to hotspot. And then they had a mechanical, so they just went easy again, and they certainly will be targeting the stage win. And I think once you're out of contention, you've had a big mechanical problem, it's knocked you out of the GC, it's the way to go. Day off, day on, day off, go again.
This is the Bulls snaking down the single track, and the other team under pressure from Damiano Ferrara and Samuel Ipora. Just going back to Cross Spur, the men's team, they had a puncture yesterday, early on, after they'd won the hotspot. Changed the tyre at the tech zone, at the first tech zone before Groenlandberg, and set off at their fairly leisurely pace. Only to know that behind them, their women's team had a puncture as well, a similar area, got to the tech zone, took a spare tyre, put it on, and realised that they, only a while later, that they'd put on the tyre that had been taken off their men's team and had a plug in it. Plug came out, they had another puncture, so they lost big time yesterday as well.
Indeed, the professionals get a dedicated tech zone for them, and they don't have a huge amount of space. They each get allocated a small box, and they get allocated a section of wheels, so they can't put the whole kitchen sink in that section. They have to choose carefully what they leave behind, and of course with 3 or 4 tech zones that they have, they've got to spread the risk. They've got to decide what goes in each box.
Well, they may have to just put something extra in there, like a piece of red tape or red ribbon or something to tie around a wheel. This one has been used and is no good, because when the women came through, they picked up the men's problem and had to fix it. So there may be a way to signal that this one is dead, do not use.
The point was made, it must be said, that that tyre looked a little dirty when they put it on. So there may have been a clue in that as well. This one's been used. As we sit with the very best in the business, Nino Schurter, enjoy his skills, his brilliance here. He doesn't waste an ounce, everything. He powers out of the corner. Look at him out of the saddle. Absolutely fantastic to watch the best.
First Australian, see, first he's had that front wheel wash out, got the foot out the pedal and saved it. He's really being pushed to his limit by Nino Schurter. You just see Nino shifting left and right, just making the bike snake its way along the track, and Forster, he's at full stretch to be able to keep up.
Both Swiss riders, this program in Switzerland is truly remarkable, and incredible athletes coming out of Switzerland. Florian Vogel, former teammate of Nino Schurter, Matthias Sternemann, all top riders in their own right.
Nino's still having a lot of fun out there.
Oh, yeah.
You see the little whip over that jump as well by the world champion. So it's all business, but when he gets the chance and he can launch, he's going to send it.
I tell you what, I think it's going to be a day, at least a short one for Forster, who's going to be hanging on here by his handlebars, because Schurter is going absolutely flat box here.
Well, that looked to me like he had an actual smile on his face. He looked back with a bit of a grin and a laugh. He said, "See the whip? Did you see the whip?"
It was brilliant to watch.
Always working on his highlights reel.
Yes, he doesn't miss a chance, does he? Fumic and Avancini, the race leaders here, and they are behind Schurter and the brilliant Lars Forster. Will give you a time split as soon as we get one. Popping across the road, more wonderful windy single tracks, as Jose Armidas referred to them. He's riding like a snake through these. Well, there are lots of snakes today. A lot of these trails bear the names of snakes: Cobra, Boomslang, Pofada. So they're fantastic trails.
Well, we've heard a few times over the last couple of days from Jose Hermida, who's riding here with Burrito Rodriguez, and Hermida has been talking about the track a lot and saying it's just like a snake. So today he really gets his wish. He gets to ride all the snakes.
Absolutely. Fumic on the front here, and Avancini. Beautiful flowing trails. They have been damaged by the fires, again, earlier this year, not long ago. And thankfully brought under control.
Now I watch the yellow jerseys, just having a look at the time check. This is at the 13-kilometer mark. This team here, Cannondale Factory Racing in yellow, still have to reach that time check. But looking down the significant names on the list, Scotsram Racing have hit the time check. They are the best so far at that 13-kilometer mark. Second spot, provisionally, Cross Spurs, Manticon Gutierrez and Andre Schenk. And in third place, 7C CBZ Willier. Fourth place, notably, at that time check, Bulls Heroes, and fifth, Trek Salison Marker. The time gap between Trek Salison Marker and the Bulls is under 10 seconds. So absolutely evenly matched, these two teams, Bulls and Trek Salison Marker.
Briefly, the Pine singles there with the Media e-bike following the Scotsram pair.
Well, going into the stage, the Bulls Heroes in third overall had an 11-second buffer back to the Trexler San Marco team, and they're 7 seconds ahead at the first time check, so they're out to 18 seconds ahead of them on GC, which we expected it to maybe go the other way in this time trial, but it is very early days yet.
In the Pines again, sitting behind Foster and Schurter.
It's a tremendous section. If you're riding, if you don't have to race this, it's a really fun section of the trail. Attracts many riders from all over the world, and some Cape Town locals often come here on the weekends just to enjoy this little section through the forest. Incredibly rewarding and engaging single track.
Just to put our viewers around the world into context, we're about 80 kilometers up the coast, up the east coast of South Africa. Not on the coast, from Cape Town that is, and about 50 k's from the coast on the eastern side, and much closer towards Cape Town, towards Gordons Bay, Somerset West Strand and that area, but about 80k drive from the centre of Cape Town.
And Lars Foster behind, and Nino Schurter taking the lead, setting the pace. Lars has got his work cut out for him. All he has to do is just follow the line, check the body angle, check the lean, check the line, check where the tyres are going, and follow the world champion all the way through.
Easy job.
Easy job, and certainly a guy who's up to the task. Let's not forget, he is the European champion, and most of the top riders in the world are from Europe. Not only that, the top rider in the world is from Switzerland, and he's Swiss too. So if it went for Nino Schurter, who knows?
Back with our race leaders in the yellow jerseys is Schurter and his partner forced to drop out of the Pines. These two are heading there.
Well, pretty tough for any Swiss riders. It's hard to be the best in the world when you're only second or third best in your country. When you've got the world champion from Switzerland, Nino Schurter, you've got a lot to live up to. This is the Bulls Heroes through the S-Bend.
Had a good showing
at the course.
Sorry, we had a good showing for them at the time check, fourth. In fact, at the moment now, we've just seen the time check. So this is pretty much the official or unofficial official result. All the teams are through the first time check at 13 kilometers, and it's still Scott Stram Racing, Nino Schurter and Lars Foster in the lead. And even though they had a bit of a crash, Manuel Fumic less than a second behind.
Well, they're on even time here on the timing. 30:27, it says Lars Foster, and then the next one through, Manuel Fumic, then Avancini, and then Schurter. So that's the order the timing Matt has given, so they are in a deadlock.
Fantastic, and that is, as Neil alluded to there, after Avancini and Fumic had a little bit of an issue when Fumic came down. They maybe lost a couple of seconds there. There it is, couldn't be closer. Amazing. But it is early days, 13, so 30 to go. And the adrenaline will be pumping.
So this is an indication that, considering that Fumic fell, it's an indication that the Cannondale team could be a little bit stronger on the trails, unless Nino Schurter and Lars Foster are measuring their efforts a little bit more carefully. Looks like man against man. It's Cannondale Factory Racing with the upper hand.
I've seen on the big open point-to-point stages that it's been Cannondale really pushing the pace. Avancini always keen to be riding on the front and trying to push things along. We've seen the Scott Stram team sit back a little bit more and then measure their effort. But when they do wind things up and fully open the throttle later on, when they've just been able to gap everyone, and maybe that's their tactic for this time trial as well, just ride tempo and then increase it all the way through and then really open up the burners in the final 1/3 of this time trial.
And the Swiss are very good planners in general, and also in the mountain bike stage race field. They'll know that the last section of the course is really tricky. They'll need to save something for a really steep section of the course, and need absolutely all their power to get over that really quickly.
We're on board with Stefan Sam there on the immediate e-bike behind Foster and Schurter. Just incredible images of these world's best riders. We're absolutely thrashing it down here.
And lucky to have the e-bikes. It's an incredible initiative. We've got really trails from the bike, real action. You can get a sense of what the riders are going through. See the way that bike is leaning around the corners, just how fast they're really going. Notably, the tires of the bikes in front are really 2.3 inches wide. The tires of the e-bike are 2.6 inches, really thick rubber, lots of tread, very heavy, but certainly designed to take the corners really fast. A lot easier to ride.
They're very heavy tyres. I'm sure they're only riding something like about a 90 TPI, so a much heavier rubberised sidewall and much less risk of puncturing like we saw from Lars Foster yesterday on those tyres we spoke about, the 170 TPI thread rating on the side, so it makes them much lighter, they roll much better, but they are less puncture resistant, and it really put a dent in their hopes yesterday. 9.5 minutes behind. It was impressive to see them come back and take 3 minutes back really quite quickly, but then they plateaued. And in fact, in the end, with that last water point where Scott Stram did stop in, Cannondale held them and then took another 15 seconds towards the end. So they got the work cut out to take this time back.
Yeah, absolutely. Dino Schurter just popping it all there as he jumped out of that single track. Absolutely nailing it is Dino Schurter. Fantastic to see him chasing. So often we used to see Dino Schurter on the front and setting the pace and managing the race. He's now the chaser hunting down the Cannondale Factory Racing team. It's not the capture, if it happens, is not likely to happen today, but it does set it up for the remaining days of this Absa Cape Epic to be an absolutely riveting viewing. The Queen Stage tomorrow from Oak Valley to Stellenbosch is a monster. They go over two mountain ranges, the Hottentots Holland, down the compulsory portage, the Hunter Pass, and then over the Helderberg Range as well, and into Stellenbosch's legendary trails. And that could be a day for a big move. Snaking away with Fumic and Avancini now onto the trail. We've just seen Schurter and Forster. No time between them as they went through the 13-kilometre mark, absolutely dead heating. So the time gap on general classification still at 2 minutes and 41 seconds as Fumic, the German champion, on the front, and the Brazilian champion and world marathon champion behind him. He doesn't wear the world champion stripes because the Absa Cape Epic aligns with cross-country rules and regulations as per the UCI. So national champions in cross-country could wear their jerseys, but not in marathon, and likewise for the world champions. Every effort out of the berms and out of the saddles to power through, keep the tempo high, keep the momentum going, a couple of pedal strokes.
They look so smooth, it looks so easy for them, but just have a look at the tyres and just a little skip on the traction. Tyres just skidding a little bit. Just shows how hard they are going. They make it look super easy, but just a little closer look and you can see exactly how much on the limit they really are.
Yeah, they're not holding back here. 43 Ks of one solid effort from these leading teams. Of course, the back of the field will be going out all the way through the morning. The last ride is expected to finish around about 3:30 this afternoon. They have 4 hours and 15 minutes is the maximum time allowed. Up this steep climb, Lars Forster on the front with Dino Schurter. Quick glance over his shoulder. Did he doubt that Nino would be there? There he is. They're heading towards the midway mark of this race, the amphitheatre, so they'll come back into the amphitheatre area at Paul Cluver, which is where the spectator point or the water point is, and then head out on the second loop, which takes them around the very much more technical trails. Oopsie, a little bit of a diversion there, but no problem, they're onto the climb together.
You see how steep that is now. The smallest gear for Forster, forcing it in the sea, just offline, and Nino on that smoother part of the track on the left-hand side, but Nino himself was out of the saddle. This is incredibly steep, over 20% the gradient here.
First images of our race leaders in the women's race. Anneke Langveld and her partner Anna van der Breggen of Investex Songo Specialized have been utterly dominant throughout the week, and they set off now with a 23-minute lead over the Summit Fincat. Quick drink for Lars Forster there.
You've got to take the opportunity when you get it. When you're on these farm tracks, you get a flatter section that's not so bumpy. Reach for the bidon, take a mouthful, and then keep going. And whether you're thirsty or not, just grab it when you can, because the technical part of this course is just not the opportunity.
And back with the yellow jerseys now. Beautiful images with the morning light that casting those long shadows through these spectacular farmlands.
Well, you couldn't script it better so far that the two top teams who've had their run-ins, not just in the race, but on the microphone as well, that they're just deadlocked at that first time check.
It is almost like it is scripted because they know that it's almost like they know that each team from each backup crew from each team is going to be reporting back exactly what those time splits are, and it's almost a matter of saying, there we go, I've matched you, I'm matching you. What have you got? What have you got?
Yeah, toe to toe and blow for blow.
You might be joining us for the first time and wondering where the Investec Songo Specialized men's team is. Jaroslav Gulavi and Sam Gaze. Sadly, Sam Gaze had that crash on stage 1, road stage 2. Didn't feel great on the bike. They lost a lot of time and then rolled out yesterday and then abandoned as a result of the effects of that crash. And they suspect a little bit of a concussion. And Jaroslav Gulavi rode on yesterday on his own, as he's allowed to do, and in fact came in handy because he helped Matt Beers with a wheel change when he had his crash. So they're not racing as a team. Of course, Gulavi can ride on with the blue number and in the Leopards jersey as a solo rider, but he won't get an official finish as this race is only about two-person teams. Anfiteatro onto the front, Fumic holding his wheel. The beautiful sloping vineyards here on a really cool climate, great for the white wines. They've found that line a little better, and they've got this steep climb, short but sharp climb. You want to avoid those ruts, find the line on the left-hand side. Good idea to avoid the ruts, Robbie.
Oh, absolutely. I ran into a bit of a water rut yesterday on the downhill, and I was almost sitting here in commentary and only could have one side facing the camera, because if it actually gone down, there wouldn't have been much left of the right side of my face, I think.
Yeah, you don't want
Some
to
say it'd be an improvement, but you know.
You don't want to get in those ruts at high speed going downhill. These guys are capable of dealing with that. So Anfiteatro takes his turn on the front. Tackle the world champion and the European champion, Schurter, and his partner, Forster. Doing the chasing today. Benefited from their support team, but only after a long wait yesterday. It was Arno de Toy who eventually donated a wheel. He and Julian Jessup riding for Team DSV.
Certainly was a perfect storm for them. They had the tyre issue to begin with. They had the slightly lighter tyres. They had Lars Forster on the back foot, a little bit under pressure on the downhill and also the uphill too. They had that core, the anti-flat core that they put into some of the professionals use to avoid snake bites, avoid slashes in the tyre. And of course, one fundamental thing is they didn't have a tie lever with them by the looks of things. One small piece of plastic. The final nail in the coffin for that, costing them 9 minutes at some stage.
Well, Jared, you just mentioned the backup team for Scott SRAM was Julian Jessup, Arno de Toy. So de Toy and Jessup putting in a solid ride through water point 1, the first time check. They're sitting in 11th place, so 11th quickest through there, 1 minute 42 behind the time of their team leaders and those riders of Cannondale.
Julian and Arno very much cross-country guys, on won every age group national title up to under 23, I think, in South Africa. And Julian likewise, a little bit younger, but a very talented young cross-country racer. And the chance to race in support of the Scott SRAM team, a wonderful one for them, and they played a bit of a role already by donating that wheel. Henrik Avancini and Manuel Fumic do not have the luxury of a backup team. And so far they haven't needed one.
Well, it looks just a bit of a dusty mark on the shorts of Manuel Fumic there. Looks like there's no cuts, there's no tears in the shorts, which is often a good indication that it hasn't been that bad a fall, perhaps just a bit of a sit down. And very unlike the shorts of Matt Beers when he came in yesterday, absolutely ripped up, and the blood already pouring out of it. A gruesome scene for the Specialized Foundation NAD team.
They drop into the single track once again. A maze of incredible trails built over the years in this part of the world, Elgin Crabo Valley. It is a mountain biker's mecca. And they snake all around these farmlands. Incredible cooperation from the landowners and the farmers to allow these trails to be built, to allow these races to come through.
certainly 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, these trails did not exist. Mountain biking was really only limited to narrow farm roads and maybe the odd bit of single track, some rocky remote single track, but nothing like the groomed trails we have today. The sport has absolutely exploded in this region, and in fact around the world. South African mountain biking is among the best in the world. People come from all over the world, and certainly the team we're looking at right now spend a lot of time in Stellenbosch. They spend a lot of time in the Cape Town, the Western Cape region, training, preparing themselves for the upcoming World Cup circuit, the UCI World Cup, of course being for a lot of these riders a big highlight of the season. The World Championships in cross country, and then the build-up will be the UCI World Cup races all around the world. Cape Town, the best place to prepare for it.
Just caught a glimpse of Scott Tram passing through the tech zone at the Paul Cluver Amphitheatre as we now flick over to the women's race. Fourth place on GC, Mariska Strauss and Jenny Stennerhag. The Fairtree Silverback team are going nicely. Jenny not quite as au fait with the pure single track and cross-country style racing. Mariska is very much a cross-country racer, raced a number of the World Cups last year, did really well as she improved through the year, particularly at the World Championships. But they'll regroup the power of Jenny Stennerhag to close in on her partner.
So Stennerhag still looking like she's got that bandage around her arm. Hopefully that's healing up nicely. She had a very hard day yesterday, grimacing through some of the stage, certainly on the really steep sections of climbing. And Mariska Strauss, quite a lot younger than her, and the youth is definitely on her side.
Well, when you've got an injury like that, you really do need to keep it covered and keep it clean. So you can't afford to just think, oh, it's going okay, I'll take the bandages off, because you've seen how filthy the riders come in at the end of these stages. And I just got to say, for all those watching our coverage, we're being told there are absolute truckloads of Spanish and Brazilians following the race. So buenos dias, a bom dia to those in Brazil and Spain. We love that you're following the coverage. We know there are many Enric Avancini fans tuning in, and also for the Spanish riders. We've got a big Spanish contingent here racing the Cape Epic this year as well.
This is through that Paul Cluver Amphitheatre area, heading out towards the tech zone. It is incredible, the bridges that have been built over this riverbed. Amazing. Dr. Paul Cluver has been very much himself driving the diggers and chopping trees down, and incredible over the years what they've done here.
Well, there's a lot of new bridges out on the course too. The section I rode yesterday, the second half of the course, there must have been 10 or 12 brand new bridges out there, and of course much of that was necessary after the fires ripped through here not so long ago. Yeah. So the bridges that were there were just incinerated.
They were.
You can see the fires. It's jump tracks, it's jump farm roads to get to the next section. You see it even here, completely burned out. What it does do for the riders is make this course a little bit easier in terms of vision, where the course is going, how the corners open up or close down a bit more. Normally those bushes are big enough in between. You can't really get a handle on the corners and where the course is going. So technically, a little bit easier, although still difficult.
Ariane Luthi, Maya Waszlowska, after their disappointing day yesterday when they had those puncture issues and took the wrong wheel from their tech zone, they've got time to make up, but they were remarkably composed at the end of the day. Yesterday, Ariane's smiling, and that's racing. She's seen it all before, and she knows exactly how long this race and how much is to come, that they can make it up. And in fact, Ariane Luthi has recovered from an hour deficit and to still win the race, so she knows that all is not lost. There's still a lot of time to go, a lot of opportunities to make back that time that they lost. They'll be almost pleased that their bad luck day is over. They've had their bad day, and that hopefully won't have any more. But if Lady Luck only strikes once, it's already struck, and now they've just got to look forward to the rest of the race and to try and make back some of that time on the second place rider, Summit Finn. It's clear out in the trails that you could arguably say that they're slightly stronger than the team Summit Finn. They've had some good results earlier on, and just eking back into that advantage to hopefully get that second place back, and possibly even challenge for the win if any disaster befalls the Investec Songo Specialized team, although it looks pretty likely that they're going to hold on to that yellow jersey. There's nothing like a bit of invincibility
there's a psychological advantage, but Ariane Luti knows full well that anything can happen.
Absolutely. It's 6 minutes, just over 6 minutes between Ariane Luti and Maya Orstovska and the second place team of Candice Hill and Adelaide de Morat. So they'll be chipping away at that today. Meanwhile, we're with Enrico Avancini and his partner Manuel Fumich, 20 kilometers in. Beautiful trails. These riders are absolutely getting the best that Oak Valley, Elgin Cabot can throw at them. Now with Scott's Ram snaking on the edge of the forest trail here. See every single opportunity they get to get out the saddle and gain a few meters a little faster. Nino Shirt is doing just that.
Of course, we're all fascinated to know exactly how the timing is working and how fast these riders are going. It looks like from the informal time checks along the way, our spotters are saying that there's a 20-second advantage that the Cannondale riders have over Scott's Ram.
Well, that'd be, as we saw at the first official time check, there was nothing between them, literally nothing. They're heading towards another checkpoint at 20 kilometers. We'll have to gauge then what the gap is. Manuel Fumich and Enrico Avancini have ridden a very measured race so far, apart from that one little off from Manuel Fumich. You might just think this is just like a cross-country course. It is laden with single track and switchbacks. There's one of those bridges, which is, may have been rehabilitated fairly recently. And Fumich just a little bit off the back of Avancini here.
I've seen this a few times. The gap's just starting to open up. Maybe they're pushing really hard and they're doing well time-wise on the clock, but only around halfway through. And be careful they don't blow themselves up. It's very easy to go out too hard in a time trial, and then you lose way too much on the way back in. This will be our Bulls Heroes, trying to defend that third place from the onslaught of the Trek Sella San Marco Italian team.
Just like the Cannondale and the Scott guys, they were pretty much evenly matched with the Trek Sella San Marco at that 13-kilometer mark. They're still going to reach that, still going to get a time check, a report on what's happening at the halfway mark at the amphitheater. That's the Paul Cluver amphitheater. Very interesting section there with all the bridges and features of the course today with lots of spectators. That's exactly the halfway mark. Let's see what kind of times the Trekkies and the Bulls are posting.
Made mention of our viewers from Spain and Brazil. Welcome to. There are 140 Spanish athletes riding in the race, which is the second biggest contingent of riders outside of the South Africans, and 31 Brazilians. But we know the Brazilians bring such verve and colour and vibe to the event. It feels like there are 130 of them.
31 Brazilians is worth a couple of hundred from anywhere else. It's the vibe and the noise they bring, and always great to have them in the race and along the race route. There's always, you might have 31 in the race, you've probably got another 60 or 70 out here supporting and enjoying the race and cheering their athletes on. Through that second water point, second time check, it's Luis Meca and Johnny Catania who are the fastest at the moment, the 7C CBZ Willia team. They are, at the moment, 47 seconds faster than Munticon and Andre Singh from Cross Spur. But of course, our top-ranked teams yet to come through that water point.
Yeah, this is the beauty of the time trial. The full story is unfolding as we go along, and the last line of the book will be written as they cross the finish line. You never know. Look at the effort now again from Urs Huber and Simon Sibjan on another of these steep vineyard climbs. This part of the world well known for those vines that cling to the side of the steepest looking mountains, and quite often these riders will have to ride up them. As they will, they'll find out as they get closer to Stellenbosch some of those really tough vineyard climbs.
Well, we're looking here at the Bulls Heroes, but out on course also, the Bulls legends of Alban Lecata and Carl Platt doing a little bit tough. They're 12th at the moment through that intermediate time check at halfway, but 4 minutes and 8 seconds behind the time set at the moment by Catania and Neha. Having a bit of a tough day, the two legends.
Yeah, I mean, they're an interesting situation because this is their #1 team. They're in 3rd place overall now, and they did come to the race with 3 teams, 2 of which were GC contending teams. Platt and Lecata had a fairly decent day on the stage 1, but it all went pear-shaped for them on stage 2, where they had massive puncturing issues and lost huge amounts of time. But they have Simon Schneller and Martin Fry, who are not that far off the pace on GC, so they'll be riding in support. And will this allow Lecata and Platt to have a final around one of the big marathon stages and go for a stage win closer to the finish at Val de Vie? Who knows?
Had a fantastic day on stage 1. That was on Monday. Just measured their efforts and got a podium. It was quite an amazing sight. And we're living at a very special time actually at the moment of the race, because we've got the first winner of the Absa Cape Epic in 2004, Carl Platt, and he's still doing podium interviews in today's times. So I think we're probably very lucky. This will be one of the last times we see that kind of thing go on. First winner, joint winner, was Manny Haymans, and he's long since retired. Carl Platt still at the top end of the sport if he's finishing on the podium at the 2018 Absa Cape Epic.
He's the leaders of the women's category. Anna van der Breggen is the lady just in front of our e-bike camera, following her teammate Anneke Langwal. Hathaway and Beers in the red jerseys, leading the African jersey. That's Hathaway in front. Easy to tell them apart. Hathaway, the smaller of the two, the lanky man with the white bandaged arm, is Matt Beers, taking a heavy fall yesterday. And it's always the day after a fall, you feel at your worst. You crash, you get up, the adrenaline's flowing, your muscles are still warm. But it's when you stop, you rest overnight, everything stiffens up, the swelling starts to go up, the bruising comes out, and you really do feel quite stiff. And when it's on the hip, like Matt Beers had, it really throws you out. Everything is not functioning like it should. You start to sit a little bit side saddle. You get less power out of one leg, so it really is a big blow when you land on your hip, you put out your hip, you put out your back. It's going to be a struggle.
You saw there Hathaway going down that descent incredibly fast. He started out like as a downhill racer, and eventually moved to cross country as a young man, and cut his teeth on the Spur series, that incredible series that breeds our South African young cross-country racers. Look how steep this is.
I've got to say, Beers still looks to be pedalling really nicely. I was trying to get a good head-on view to see that sort of alignment, and he still seems to be pedalling really nice and smoothly, not seeming to favour one side. So he may have got off that crash fairly well. I won't say lightly, because I saw the blood streaming out and the cuts he had on his hip. But he's looking quite good at the moment and not looking in trouble following Hathaway, particularly on that steep section.
And these are the two best South African mountain bikers, arguably, that we have at the moment in this country, and it's a pleasure to see them riding at the top end of the sport and really dicing it out with the likes of Nino Schurter and Enrico Avancini.
I'll say one thing, Beers looks fairly comfortable uphill, but he looks a little bit ginger on the downhill sections and into the corners, and it does throw your confidence when you've had a big off like that.
Yeah, you're talking about the physical feelings of coming off a bike, and it's the mental ones that really do get under your skin.
And you see the cuts and the blood and the bruising, but it's the psychological scars that are harder to discern. But certainly the day after, it is a case of once bitten, twice shy.
It takes the edge off the performance a little bit, just in the edge off the ability to take those risks, and just not quite the same. We all know that races are won on the knife edge, and if your edge is off, it's not quite don't quite have the advantage that you used to if you are a particularly skillful rider. Matt Beers is a very good rider on the marathon circuit in South Africa.
Grew up racing motocross. He's no stranger to falling off and accidents, and it hasn't been his first one, and it won't be his last one.
Well, that is why he's a mountain biker, because he had a really bad off on the motocross circuit in the States. He was racing in the States, and he had to rehab for quite a long time, and they discovered whilst he was rehabbing on a bike that in fact he had incredible power. And they said, hang on, you know, what about it? And he dropped the engines and turned to mountain biking, and he popped on the scene about 6 years ago. Much longer hair, the mullet down to below the shoulders, and started winning races with relative ease.
I've heard similar stories so many times. Cycling's really been the benefactor of other sports injuries. I've had rowers come across, they've had to rehab different injuries, get on the bike, all sorts of people. In fact, one of the best road riders in the world recently retired, the Australian Simon Gerrans. He was also a motocross rider, had to rehab after a knee reconstruction. And the guy has won Milan-San Remo, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, won the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, and you know, there's many instances of that happening. So cycling really benefiting, getting these incredible athletes in our sport.
No shortage of examples there. We have Bart Brenchens too, in fact, who had to rehab after an accident, and Bart Brenchens went on to become Olympic champion, the first Olympic champion cross-country mountain biking.
Just watch this first corner here. They ride out of here and straight into the sand. It was a tricky little section. And we just cut away right as I could hit that piece of sand, of course, but it's those sort of things. There's real changes of terrain and changes of surface from that really nice dirt and then the gravelly farm track, and then you turn in through the gates, you take a berm and you think everything's good, suddenly you hit the deep sand.
Yeah, focus and concentration here all the time. This is our leading women's team, Langveld and Van der Breggen.
Van der Breggen at the back. Yeah. Just following the lines of the World Marathon Champion, and has also been the World Cross Country Champion, and Van der Breggen the Olympic Champion, and of course the World Road Champion. Lots of champions in that sentence.
No, just to let you know that the leading team that have finished is the Cross Spur team, and they're sitting down not far away from us, 1 hour 42 minutes and 39 seconds.
In fact, they're sitting in the hot seats.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful red couch, and they get to sit there for a while. Hopefully, it doesn't switch around too much. They get to enjoy the limelight until the top teams come in.
Well, that's his Cross Spur. Sink and Munticom went out early. We saw them win the Dimension Day, the hotspot sprint yesterday. They had some bad luck, and then they've just sort of cut their losses, sat up a couple of times, saved energy, and then gone out after the big prizes. But yesterday, after winning that hotspot, they had another puncture, so they lost themselves an hour yesterday, and then turned their attention to this time trial, and they've given it a really good shake. And through the intermediates, they had been sitting at the top of the table for quite a long time, but then we're expecting Cataneo and Mecha to come through and take over the lead, because at the halfway intermediate point, our current hot seat occupiers were 47 seconds behind.
Peter Farhout and Christian Heineck. This is the Kenyan team. The man on the front, the young man on the front, is prodigiously talented, World Cup champion at the moment in cross country, won the World Cup Series last year. We've just seen the world champion at the under-23s. That's a World Cup under-23s for Farhout. So he's Christian Heineck knew, I think, before today started, that he might be in the hurt box today. It's not his discipline, the short, sharp events and races, but he'll hang in there with this young man. He's tapping on a great rhythm. The Norwegian, that could be moving up on the general classification standings. They are involved in a very good battle of Farhout and Heineck. Beers and Hathley behind them, Kess and Gesma ahead of them. This man won the Stellenbosch World Cup last year, won 2 more through the year to put his name at the top of the standings at the end of the year. Didn't go quite as well in the World Championships, which saw Alan Hathaway take the top step. Christian Heineck, 38-year-old, quite happy to let Farhout set the pace, but he'll be making him well aware of when things get a little bit too hot for him. Sink and Matcon Gutierrez, 1 hour 42:39, the benchmark time for now. Interesting to see how much that'll come down. Whoops, just overshooting that a little, Farhout. And Christian Heineck could get the line a little bit better, and
does affect the rhythm a bit when you miss a turn like that, and just the confidence, you're not quite in the flow, and a 40k race, it seems like Seems like a long way, but it's quite short in relative terms with the mountain bike stage racing, the marathon stages. The marathon style stages going upwards of 100 kilometers. And 40k is short effort, but keep the concentration, keep the morale up. Make mistakes like that, it starts to erode the confidence. And it's all about keeping a good rhythm. Be sure that nothing breaks your stride. Keep in the game.
Ferraro and Porro, Trek, Celes and Marco. Remember this intense battle for third place on the podium at the moment against Ursuba and Simon Stepjan of the Bulls. 11 seconds at the start of the day. The early checkpoint suggested, they told us that Uber and Stepjan had made up more time on that, so they'd gone out to around 18 seconds on GC, but as this race unfolds, that may well change. This pair are hungry to get up into third place.
We're looking at the time checks at the 30-kilometer mark, and that's they've just passed that mark. In fact, Trek, Celes and Marco, Ferraro and Porro. They're 52 seconds back on 7C, CPZ, Willier, that's Meyer and Cataneo, with Crossspur lying in second at that section before the big teams come through at 48 seconds. So Trek on a good day. Let's see how fast the Bulls go through at this time check.
Porro and Ferraro, well, they have been always in the mix. The Trek, Celes and Marco team come to the Absa Cape Epic. There they are at the 31.5Ks and a third fastest. Meyer and Cataneo, the leaders at the moment. But as we know, that'll all unfold and change as the faster teams come through. But 52 seconds down so far, Porro and Ferraro.
Well, really no coincidence. Those top two teams are teams who are a little bit further back in the general classification, lost some time maybe, just taken a little bit easier to conserve some energy and really concentrate on trying to win this time trial.
Yeah, the Crossspur team are interesting, as we've alluded to earlier. They've lost so much time, so they are raiding on the stages every now and again, and they're probably earmarking one or two later on the week as well. Take a day off. Today's, for many of them, these top pros, I mean, it's not even 9 o'clock and they're already showered and rested.
Although I must say, the 7C CBZ resting, so just for a super rock today, you're on a good day and you're in control.
There's a good chance that they could improve. They start shooting up the leaderboard. We've seen some ominous moves, but Trek, Celes and Marco, the Bulls have moved up nicely. And this is another team we need to watch carefully. They're having a good day. They're almost in touch with the top 5, you could say, barring any kind of incidents with those top teams. And got to be really watchful of Meyer and Cataneo.
They've got 6 minutes to make up on La Carta and Platz to take over the 9th place on general classification. And we said earlier, La Carta and Platz were struggling a little bit further down the leaderboard.
These days in the Absa Cape Epic, to make a top 10 at the race is a big deal. Professionals train their entire lives just to make a top 10. So a creditable result for these two.
It's a very, very deep field this year. So many top quality teams racing around the world come and shine a light on the Absa Cape Epic every year and use it as an opportunity to put their names in lights. That's better for it. Also just slightly off both of them.
Catching people by surprise, that corner. It's sometimes there's, we said, the innocuous corners, the tricky ones with the big arrows and the big skull and crossbones around the corner and down. They're the ones that people are careful of. It's the ones where there's no warning. It's just a little bit of a rut to the left, and before you know it, you're in it. Watching here the Trek, Celes and Marco team, looking carefully at what the Bulls are doing. The Bulls have come through that time check. That's the 31.5 kilometer mark. The Bulls heroes are lying at 2:25, just 9 seconds back off Trek, Celes and Marco. So still very much
super steep section we saw earlier. Matt Beers and Alan Hatley on it. This gives you a really good angle at it to see how steep it is. It's incredibly difficult.
And also important how you measure your efforts on that section. So just make sure you're in the very easiest gear. Don't blow up the muscles. Put too much pressure through them. Just ease your way through it and then leave some power for getting the speed back up on the flats.
Well, there's the story then. Ferraro and Porro.
9 seconds.
9 seconds. So virtual on GC, just 2 seconds is the gap now to Uber and Stepjan.
They may as well be riding together. Even though they're riding apart, it is a time trial, individual starts. They are absolutely matching each other, pedal stroke for pedal stroke, almost like someone's giving them time checks in there all the time.
Every pedal stroke does count on today's time trial for these teams. So the age groups, the amateurs will be rolling off that start ramp, but for them, for many of them, this will be a day of just get through it. We've got the maximum time allowed is 4 hours and 15 minutes. I'd rather not spend all that time out there, but try and just take it as easy as possible.
We do have one team through the finish, one of the major teams, the big favourite teams to be watching.
Split time at 31.5 kilometres. Schurter in first to go to the top of the table, 1:23 faster than Meha and Cataneo. But what we're really waiting for is the Cannondale team, Fumitz and Avancini, to come through. And just a couple of minutes, 3 minutes in fact, between the teams when they took off. So not much longer to wait to get a split time. In fact, they were locked at the first intermediate, the top two teams on GC.
Team that's just come in, MMR, Factory Racing, they just got to the finish. They started really early, and our cross spur team started before 7 o'clock. They had a good run. They'll have a bit of time on that hot seat, but it looks likely they'll have that hot seat snatched away from them very soon when the next top contending teams come through.
So Foster on the front here, Schurter right on his wheel. Just body language suggests Foster is digging really deep here. Oh, Factory Racing second fastest. David Valero is the Spanish champion, and that's saying something with all the quality of the riders they've got. And he's riding with Cabral and Risotto. So let's see if we can get images of Schurter and Forster.
Just to give you some perspective on that first time check that we had.
That same tricky
that same trickiness
very well, and it's just using where the road's been cut out. They see that there's just that little bit of dirt on the left-hand side. They can use that as a berm just to get themselves onto the track.
That's a good sign that
every single centimetre.
And a good sign that Foster is a little bit more alert than some of the other riders. He was able to judge and correct.
So back through the gate and back into the Oak Valley estate, and you can tell, you'll see them go under that white sign. The tracks are all named here, so they're on their way now up towards the Groenland Falls, and it's really quite a steep and very sandy track on the way up to the falls, and a short descent down through the blue gum forest, across the creek and straight back up the other side. So it's a tricky and very difficult part of the course.
So we have some news from out on the course, very exciting. We have at that time check, that's at the 31.5 kilometre mark. The best team through that time check is Sram Racing, and 41 seconds back, Cannondale Factory Racing. So that 2-minute 41 deficit that Sram had is being eaten up. Now it's down to virtual lead, 2 minutes on the road.
Well, we did ask that question when they were deadlocked on even time through the first time split after 13 kilometres. Had Cannondale gone out too hard? It's all about pacing yourself in a time trial. And we said in the longer stage, it was always Cannondale pushing the pace early. Sram sitting in tempo and then wind things up, and they're the masters of pacing themselves in that tempo, and they've made their big attack now in this time trial. And 42 seconds now the difference. In the space of 18 kilometres, they've built that up. So really starting to make inroads on the GC lead of the Cannondale team. But it doesn't look like it's going to be enough at the end of today to take those yellow jerseys away.
Yeah, with some 12 kilometres to go, you feel there's no way that these two will lose that sort of time without having a major issue somewhere on the line. But that lead will be shrunken by the time they get here. I don't think there's much doubt about that. Schurter, as Robbie's been saying, is a master tactician. I mean, he's won cross-country World Cup races for almost a decade now, from virtually every conceivable position. He's been had issues. He's fallen on the last lap and managed to get up and win races. So he knows exactly how to pace himself around here, and I think he's managing last Forster brilliantly.
He is, and that pacing is really helpful. But the thing is that Nina Schurter is so strong. It's a credit to Lars Foster that he's able to go with that and ride at that pace. It's one thing to be guided in and say this is how hard we need to go, but to be able to do it as well, quite incredible.
It's a big aspect of the team. If you've got the big responsibility of riding with the 7-time world champion, you know you've got to live up to it. No one wants to let Nino down. And Lars Foster is doing very well. Oh, there's a bit of a gap. That's not a good sign that they're not riding cohesively. Manuel Fimich either needs to get back on terms with Avancini, or Avancini needs to drop back. Just give his teammates a little bit of a chance, not put them under too much pressure. Pacing is everything.
Yeah, again, we've seen this through the week. Manuel Fimich just being occasionally, when really the heat gets wound up, that he just starts losing touch with his partner. So we've got a team in the hot seat. It's the Cross-Spur team. Let's hear from them with Lara.
Guys, you were the fastest team here at the finish line, and you started very early, so you overtook almost 10 teams. So how's been that?
Yeah, I think we did a very good job today. Before the stage, we talked together that we will try to win this stage. It was very good for us because we are cross-country riders. Then it was shorter, a lot of single trails, and now we are faster, and we will see.
You had also, it was not easy because also you had a mechanical, so how long did it take that?
I think we managed very fast, maybe 15 seconds, 10 seconds, and we continue that. We lost some time, but I hope it will be enough.
Sergio, what do you think about the rivals? What do you expect from them today?
For sure, it's one of the mini kind stages because today is team beat team, and it's a very important day for the overall. So all the strong team will push as hard as possible. The same for us is one of our goals, the stage winning. And today we planning, Sinky and me, we planning to go for the winning, and we will see what happens.
And it was not easy for you because the conditions were not the same than now. It was the light was different, so maybe that's also a factor.
Yeah, it was one of our handicaps. We start one of the first teams, so we take some traffic in some single tracks, and also the light at 6:51 in the morning wasn't so good inside the forest, was too dark, and we don't know the track, so we have to improvise with not too much light. But in the other hand, we had a very good feeling, we have good legs, and hopefully we can get the winning.
Thank you.
Thanks very much to Sergio Metzger and Andre Sink, and Laura getting up later from in the hot seat, which is not far from us.
Just to give you some context on that position on the hot seat, look at some of the riders that have passed through the time checks. That is the 31-kilometer mark. Cross-Spur were 4th through that time check, and we've still got to wait for 7C, CBZ, Whittier, Cannondale Factory Racing, and Scott Mountain Bike Racing to see how they do. Still 3 teams in contention that could knock them off that hot seat.
Well, I think I'm at that 31.5 kilometre time check. Just going down through the GC a little bit. At the moment, Matthew Beers and Alan Hatley look to be about to, or they just have on GC leapfrogged over Peter Fagerhog and Christian Heineck. They were 42 seconds down at the start of the day. They're 50 seconds in front of them at the moment. So there's a lot of little races within the race. The 3rd and 4th positions are very close to each other, 7th and 8th as well.
So this is on board with the Bulls team, the Bulls heroes, Steve John, and in front of them, Steve John and Ruba, in front of them are the Scott SRAM team, so they've ridden through them.
Well, that means that they've got a 3-minute advantage already because Nino Schurter and Lars Foster started the time trial 3 minutes behind the Bulls Heroes team, so they've made up that 3-minute deficit already, and it looks like they're on a storming day. A little bit humiliating for the Bulls, but they know that maybe today's not their day. Tomorrow's a day where they'll maybe come into their own. Short, sharp efforts are not really their thing, and also they don't have yellow jersey to chase.
New leaders in the hot seat, Louis Meyer and Johnny Catania of 7C CBZ Villiers have posted a time of 1:41.03.
Well, the Scots-Ram team have just turned off the section they call the Groenland Steps. So they've gone up to the falls, had a dive back down, up the steps, and then along this piece of farm track, and then they'll swing in to the left and get a really nice piece of single trail. In fact, this is the piece of farm track that I nearly tried myself on yesterday, and that's why I'm watching it with so much interest. Fast downhill, and I can tell you fellas, do not get on the left side into that water rut.
Well, is that, when a team
there it is, right there on the left.
Okay. This is a very familiar trail to these riders as they head into the Land Rover technical terrain. Fissy's magic it is.
It's a beautiful section. You see this bank turn. They've got the wooden berm there. It's a fantastic piece of trail.
Both of them do a tail whip. I think they're... that's a great berm there.
There's no question the two men ahead of them made full use of that lefty berm, and Uber and Steve John a little more conservative. This is a really magical trail. It is Fissy's magic.
Just notably, the Bulls are taking a lot of care not to get into the draft of the Scots-Ram racing team. They know that, seen in the past, there have been some time penalties for drafting. They don't want to leave anything to chance, want to leave a very respectable gap. You know, the commissaires are watching every move.
Well, I know one thing, they won't be able to see them from a heli shot through this section. It's really dense forest. It's really quite dark in there as well. You're really right under the trees next to the creek bed. It's a beautiful piece of trail.
Which tells us they are very close to home, probably about 7 k's from home. Look at the trail there, snaking in and out of the forest.
Well, this is that last section they just came out of, the Groenland Steps, and then on the other side of the ravine is where they come into this section, and of course right at the top the Groenland Falls. And you see this terrain, you don't really expect to see a waterfall, and then suddenly there it is at the top of the ravine.
Now May and Cataneo, they kicked Manticon Gutierrez and Sink off the hot seat. They're waiting, they're going to be looking very carefully at that board above the start arch.
That was some decent air.
Yeah, left and right I think as well. Nicely coordinated by Lars Forster and Nino Shirt. There was a little replay of the tail whips as they went over that little...
They know the cameras are watching.
Oh yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah, absolutely, they love it. After all, that's why they're riding bikes. It's a passion for these guys. It is a job as well, and they're doing that job very, very effectively. Lars Forster, the European champion and the world champion behind him. They're eating into that lead, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. And Canada Factory Racing had over them coming into the stage. They've chewed back for at least 41 seconds of that. And you feel the way they're going here, they may well be eating more of it.
I have to think back to that fall that Manuel Firmich had. Perhaps that took a bit of the wind out of the sails. Initially, maybe a bit of a burst of energy, and suffering for that little efforts that they put in.
Well, the riders will recognise parts of today's course because the finish of stage 2 came in the same way, and you get to a point where on stage 2 you're 1 kilometre from the finish line. The course then swings right and takes you up an incredibly steep piece of farm track. So you feel, oh, I know where I am, I'm really close to the finish, and then you turn back away from it again. So some really tough sections still to come in this time trial. And do another loop out and around away from the finish.
Well, this is the hot team on the course at the moment. Lars Forster and Nino Schurter. A big deficit after yesterday, 6 minutes and 45. They lost on the day, 2:41 back in second place, having had the yellow jerseys after the prologue. They are looking to get a little bit closer to donning those once again. It probably won't happen today, but they'll be a bit closer if they keep going like this.
A little uphill section here, and we just caught a glimpse at the top of the ridge, that solitary single file tree line. I'll dive down through there, the trail they call Indensity. And then on some nice single track again after that, which is where they can see the race village and have to do another loop away from it.
Sitting on the tail of the race leaders, Canada Factory Racing. Firmich on the front now, Vincini behind him, and this is on Robbie's night there.
Yep, there they go right past where I nearly ate it, and they are about to swing themselves into Vissy's Magic. I wonder if they've had a time check and if, well, they've got enough morale to throw out a couple of tail whips, or if the stress is starting to get to them and it's all performance. Here we come down to that same spot, the big jump. Little one, Avanti, well, a Brazilian. He's got to. A little bit of show.
Yes, he'll get through there. It's that left-hand berm is a beautiful piece of trail. Now back with Schurter and Forster.
We're following them through these trails, coming in, going into and out of the forest, and we expect to see them at the finish in around about 15 minutes. We're seeing some of the riders come in. We've seen Christoph Sauser come in with Simon Andreasen. We've seen the Pagi Eurosteel guys come in, and the support team, the Scott Factory Racing DSV support team also in. But the teams that really count in terms of what the result's going to look like today, what the podium's going to look like today, they are still about 10 to 15 minutes out of the race village.
A little bit on the brakes as they went into that left-hander and then opened the taps once again, Nino Schurter. And Lars Forster, I reckon, I mean, he's done an incredible job, but he's riding with the very best in the business for many, many years now. Olympic champion, world champion, and World Cup champion. He's going to be hanging on for as much as he can.
We talked about Schurter, we talked about Spitz actually having all different colours of Olympic medals. You know, Schurter has a bronze, a silver and a gold medal.
Back with the leading women, that's Annika Langvall and Anna van der Breggen. So yeah, we do, occasionally you're going to have some problems with our coverage out there. We're right against the slopes of the Groenberg Mountains, so occasionally the signal isn't great. We dip in and out of those valleys. But a drama unfolding here now with Nino Schurter and Scott Schramm. They had 41 seconds. What do you reckon? 2:41 at the start of the day, 41 they made up already. What do you reckon by the end, Robbie?
I think they're going to manage to push it out to about a minute.
Okay. Sets it up beautifully.
I think Robbie stole my prediction there. I would say a minute's a very accurate
Okay, I'll say 59 seconds. What do you reckon, Neil?
101.
All right, this is back where we want to be on the trails. This is Van der Breggen and Langvall at the back at the moment. And many have felt that she's been incredibly powerful in all of her races and had great partners, Ariane Luthi and Kate Courtney last year. But Anna van der Breggen has brought the best out of Annika Langvall this year. She is immensely strong and has proven to be a really able partner.
And just such a great team network as well. They've got a great support team. This is a support team that have supported the likes of Boris Stander and Christoph Sauser. We've got Jaroslav Kulhavi have won victories under this structure, and I think there was really little doubt as to the preparation. And Anna van der Breggen slotted in, brought her A game, brought her power along, and has fitted in pretty well. Just a time check. Went back to talking about the women's. The first time check at the 13-kilometer mark. No surprises that Investec Songra Specialized were best through that, and at 38 seconds back, a surprise Summit Finn and Crossbow Racing at 1:30. So Crossbow Racing not on such a good day. They maybe spent a bit of energy chasing back yesterday.
Look at the speed these two are going. Schurter and Forster flying down the trail now. They're closing in on the last couple of kilometers. Amazing skills, speed, judgment.
Coming towards the end of the Sounds of Silence trail. And it's around this point where the other day they had just 2 kilometres to go. Well, now they still have about 5 to go.
Yeah, this is that sort of false finish, if you like.
It's quite a frustrating thing. You can hear this. You can hear the announcers, and you know you've just got a little bit to go. Not quite home yet. You may pass the finish, but there's still a little bit of a loop to go. Make sure that you're carefully watching the kilometers on the computers. They all have very close watch on exactly how far they've still got to go. They'll have the profile boards stuck to their top tubes, keeping a very close watch on how many climbs to go, just so they can get there. If it's perfectly measured, they do want to reach the finish with the tanks empty and not before, and certainly not after.
Absolutely, they're putting everything on the line here, and knowledge of what lies ahead is critical for them as well. As Neil was suggesting there. None of those A-frames.
The e-bike there capturing all the action that's going on in front, getting a bird's eye view or a rider's eye view of what it's like on the trails at the Absa Cape Epic.
Fumic and Aventini, yellow jerseys, they will, if all goes well, still have them at the end of the day, but not likely that they're going to have as comfortable a lead as they had at the start of the day today.
The tactics that these guys have started to, well, they're prepared with, the first thing that they're prepared with was the notion that Nino Schurter is unbreakable. They know that it's going to be really hard to break an athlete like that. So what they'll do is they'll focus their efforts on last faster. So if there's any weakness in last faster they see tomorrow, Cannondale Factory Racing guys will be capitalizing 100%.
Yeah, capitalizing on others' mistakes and errors, and the closer it gets, that tension between the two teams, and there's no question it's there. This is what has been one of the hallmarks of the first few days of this race. There's apparent tension between the two teams, or particularly between the cross-country world champion and the marathon world champion, Schurter and Aventini. It's a good thing. Fires up the race.
It's a great thing for the race, and as much as we don't want to wish mechanical failure on anyone or any team, it was also a good thing for the race that there was a mechanical failure for Scott Strand. Let's face it, it's part of the racing and it's made it much more exciting. They had a big and comfortable lead. Now they're on the back foot and they're on the chase, and it's now Aventini and Fumic who have to defend and are the hunted, and it just makes for fantastic viewing.
But you cannot allow that sort of rivalry and that sort of tension to override your approach to the race.
And I think that in a little way is what's been happening with Aventini, and that Nino Schurter seems to be the master of just shrugging it all off and moving forward. He says it with a smile, and it seems to be eating Aventini a little bit more, in my opinion.
But I think it's definitely a deliberate tactic to antagonize each other. And Aventini will be doing it as much as possible. So when he goes on the podium, he's going to make sure that that smile is extra broad, beaming, and make sure that Nino Schurter is watching all of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we've seen on the podiums, is the different personalities and characters of the two. Nino's been the same every time he's been up there, regardless. Aventini, on the day after the argument in Hermanus, was very grim. He didn't smile, and then yesterday he's up jumping and smiling. So
hard on his sleeve.
He cannot hide his emotions one bit. Schurter and Foster, the men who are looking likely to set the quickest time today. Big effort. Look at that, the Bucky running alongside the trail. That's a mobile grandstand. Cool. Hothouse effect coming up shortly, and then they'll be on the run into the finish.
Yep, so they're over the top of that very difficult farm trail climb, the really steep ones. They're up and over what was the last hard piece of this course, straight ahead past the dams, and as you said, they'll come into glasshouse effect, that last little run down, and there's a couple of little tricky sections on that descent. There's one of the right-hand corners. As you come in, it's a little bit unsighted, and there's a bit of a sinkhole on the left. If you go too wide in that corner, you'll find your front wheel go straight into that hole, and you can find yourself over the handlebars. And a little bit further down, there was one of the bridges that was just a bit collapsed on one side. Just see the skills of Schurter, the way he just locks up that back wheel, kicks it out to the right, and then throws the bike back to the left, puts him in perfect line for the A-frame to go through the fence line. He's just brilliant to watch.
That little section, sorry, Robbie, you've picked it perfectly, that section. At speed, down the hill, right hand, a little bit of a potential washout, but over the A-frame, all done as if it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's rally style. You kick it out one side, and as it comes back, it puts you in perfect line, and then you just let it accelerate, and in this case, just let it off the brakes. And Schurter is just the master at. And it's not just the skills. I've seen other people do it, but not at this intensity.
That's the thing,
try and do that. Keep your concentration, keep those skills. When you're at a heart rate somewhere approaching 190 beats a minute, and you've already, you're in 4 days of racing.
And the idea of keeping your skills honed, it's it's so that really those kind of moves will be completely instinctive. It's something that you would be able to have just without even thinking about. He will have done that. It's part of his arsenal, part of something that he would just do. And it's all part of being in touch with your machine. His bike is set up meticulously.
Crash.
Whoa! This is trouble.
Of Van der Breggen. Anna van der Breggen, I think that is.
Yeah.
Struggling to get the bike out of the bushes there. Teammate waiting further up. In fact, that's Langveld. So she's just gone off the edge of the trail there. It's
wow, that's the first little chink that we've seen in the armour of Investec Songo Specialised, pushing hard as ever, as we always know they do.
Well, on this section of trail, really steep drop-offs to the right, so all you have to do is just get a little bit offline, get that front wheel off the edge of the trail, and it falls away. It just seemed the bike was tangled in the trees as well. You see how sandy and soft it is. It's really quite a difficult section, this climb up on the edge of the cliffs, right near the top of the hills.
Langveld really has to watch out for us, not putting in too much effort to catch up. It's really up to her partner to drop back and make sure that 2-minute gap stays under control. And they have such a great lead that it's still very easy to get caught up in the spirit of racing and just try and push just a little bit too hard. They've got a super comfortable margin. They can relax still.
Well, they don't have to panic. They've got a big buffer overall, and leading in this time trial as well. But it's never far away. A good thing for the Investec Songo Specialised women's team is that it was on a part of the course that's not particularly fast. And also a soft surface. It's quite sandy, and that's probably what happened in the first place. So there'll be no physical damage from that one.
There's certainly not a lot of room for error on that trail. It's just 30 centimeters to the left, 30 centimeters to the right, and really off the trail, and it can be very frustrating. You saw the frustration of Lanneke Langveld trying to get her bike back off that section, maybe caught on a tree, just stuck between the water bottle cage maybe and the frame. And she needs to be careful when she's in a situation like that, not to pull too hard in case something breaks off the bike.
Just to put it into perspective now, the benchmark time, 1:41, 1 hour 41 minutes and 3 seconds. Johnny Catania and Louis Meyer. Samuele Porro and Damiano Ferraro, 59 seconds back. So they are contenders, albeit they are marathon races out and out. It'll be interesting to see where they are GC after today, because they had 11 seconds on the Bulls.
Well, at the 31.5 kilometre time check, we had Scott Schramm 1.5 minutes ahead of Meja Catania. I think it's going to be stretched out to do, and here is the finish.
Sensational wheelie by Lars Forster as he gets over the line, and guess what? 1 hour 38 minutes and 40 seconds. They have smashed that previous best by 2 minutes and 23 seconds. New hot seat.
So just finished saying that they were 1.5 minutes ahead of the next fastest team at the 31 kilometre mark. They've put another almost a minute into them over the final 12 kilometres of this course. So it just shows the pacing, the intelligence, the race IQ of Nino Schurter and Lars Forster, the way they can wind it up and bring it all the way home, and made the biggest impact in the last part of the course.
Well, that goes to show, although it's a very zen philosophy, the slower you go on the first half means you're going to go faster on the second half, and that's true as far as it goes, and certainly true of time trials. Inheriting the hot seat, kicking the other guys off, they are immediately, Nino makes himself very comfortable in that chair. It looks like he believes he's there to stay until, certainly until after the Camden Factory Racing guys come in.
It's quite interesting to see the mountain bikers finish, and they're quite content to just rack the bike, get off and sit down, and don't want to go near it. Well, you see road riders finish the time trial, they're straight on the rollers to warm down, thinking of the next day. But these guys like, get me away from that thing, give me a break.
Let's go down to Lara now and hear from Scott Schramm.
Guys, 1:38 for you. Was this under your expectations this morning?
Yeah, we did well, I think so. Lars was super strong today. He pulled hard, and I think we even pulled out some time out of Cannondale, so it was a good performance today.
How was the track, the route of these 40 kilometers, 43 kilometers?
Today was amazing, really. I had so much fun. The trails were so cool, so flowy, and a little bit crazy, because in the Land Road technical downhill, the trees were so close and we were so fast, nearly hit some like 3-4 trees. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and fun is fast.
It's nice to hear that it's possible to suffer and also have fun.
Yeah, it's something in between, I would say. No, it was a good track. It was quite a loose surface, so it was difficult. Some turns, you always had to be afraid not to go too fast into the corners, but yeah, we managed well.
Thank you.
I think it's an understatement. They managed extremely well. 1 hour, 38 minutes and 40 seconds. Just caught a glimpse there of Cannondale Factory Racing. They are going to lose time today.
Yeah, they were just on that section of Glasshouse Effect, the final descent down towards the finish. They will lose some time. They were 42 seconds down at the second time check, but we saw how Scott SRAM really brought it home and opened up a big gap on the second fastest team here at the finish at the moment. And will that be the same story for Cannondale Factory Racing? And we're thinking about a minute, but hard to say this last part of the course. So brutal with that very steep climb in the last 3 kilometres.
That battle for the third place on the podium has changed again. The Bulls and Steve John 24 seconds behind Trexella and Marco. So the Italians will move above them in the GC by about 13 seconds. So it's going to be again then tomorrow, perhaps a day that plays in the Bulls' hands.
It's a significant show of strength there between the two of them. They're going to be watching each other's times and even the split times very carefully. Probably won't read too much into the time difference. They know they're more or less evenly matched. And it all will come down to what happens and how they measure their efforts over the next 3 days. Having a look at that interview, just thinking about it, how quickly did Nino Schurter point out that Lars Foster was strong? Yeah. Maybe there's something at play there, because we all know that the competing teams are looking very carefully at the second rider, you could say. They're looking at how well Lars Foster's doing. Everyone knows Nino Schurter is unbreakable. The other teams are looking at how breakable Lars Foster is. Nino very quick to point out that Lars Foster was strong.
Are you intimating that he is trying to mask the potential weakness in his team?
Let's pay attention carefully to that, because we have Cannondale Factory Racing coming in, and Avancini looking back. He's not making any secrets of the fact that Manuel Fumic is the weaker partner. Let's see if he says anything about Manuel when they get to the finish. Avoiding eye contact with Nino Schurter, not even looking in that direction, backing the bikes, facing the opposite way.
1 minute and 28 seconds. Avancini and Lars Forster have given over to the Scott SRAM team. There it is, 1:28. They are second fastest on the day.
Well, so that's in line with what they lost between check 1 and check 2. They were dead level at the first intermediate time check at 13. At 31, they were 42 seconds behind. Then they've gone and lost a further 46 in that last section. So Nino and Lars just went further and further away. At 1:28, they've lost about half of their lead that they started this morning with on GC.
One thing about the time trial is that there's no one with you, there's no way to match a pace, and really gives Nino Schurter and Lars Foster, gave them a good opportunity to just open up as much of a gap as they can. They paced themselves absolutely perfectly, as the record shows. I haven't seen him Fumic.
Very interesting. You're referring to the dynamic in this winter enclosure, and Schurter and Foster sitting in the shade on the red hot seat there. They're comfortable, chatting and laughing. And there's very definitely another camp going on there, the Cannondale Factory Racing one, not even, as Neil said, looking at each other.
Yeah, very different vibe. I mean, the Cannondale Factory Racing team are there in their yellow jerseys. They have defended the lead adequately to hang on to that, but not too many smiles over there, sort of heads down a little bit, like they've taken a kick.
They've got up now, little fist bumps. We're seeing behind us here, we're in the position to look straight into this enclosure. There was a quick fist bump and then they left. So Fumic and Avancini, second thus far on the stage. They've lost 1 minute and 28 of their overall lead, which was 2:41.
Well, we saw Schurter and Forster go over to the Cannondale team to, give the fist bump, say well done, but it's almost we won and we're coming to get you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah. Race on, that's for sure. It's getting down to one of the closest at this stage of the Absa Cape Epic that we've seen in many, many years.
And the big psychological battle between Enrico Avancini and Nino Schurter isn't necessarily the battle between the two of them. Perhaps it's to antagonize them so they hurt their partners.
Laura, it's all yours. Let's hear from them.
Hi. Manuel, we go with you that you are sitting down here. Second of today's stage, only 2 seconds behind Team Scott. Yes. Yes. Yeah, 138, 140. At least what's what we've seen.
Question. Okay, how was your day so far?
No. But listen, so what do you think about it?
No, I mean, we had a okay race. I mean, we had a different approach. We wanted to not lose too much time, and in the end, I think it was over 1.5 minutes. But we had a little, or I had a little issue. I had a crash, or I washed out, and after 3 Ks already, and then I broke my suspension lockout. So I was riding more or less 40 Ks with complete locked suspension, and at one point, my back just blocked more or less, and then we couldn't really work together in a way, so Ave had to do most of the work today, so he was really strong. I couldn't really help him today. He kind of took me on the hook and brought me to the finish, so in the end I'm really happy with our team tactics. And man, we had a different approach, but it worked out, and we're happy with the second place. We kept on yellow, and it's all right.
I'm glad that you have more information than I have. So how are you going to face the race from now?
So as Manny said, you know, today we actually planned to ride way more aggressive than we did, but he had like a small crash early on the stage, and then he got a small mechanical issue. So we tried to balance the situation. We lost more time than we wished to. Actually, the plan was to at least keep the time or put some seconds on the Scott guys. Anyway, we just adapted to the situation. We're still in yellow. We finished second on the stage, so we kind of controlled the damage, I would say. And let's see. I mean, we have like 3 days to go. And on the other hand, you know, I didn't spend too much energy as I would today. So probably for the next 3 days, I'm gonna have like 3 good legs still.
Thank you.
So the views from Manuel Fumic and Henri Cavancini, and these are our race leaders in the women's, seemingly recovered from that off Annika Langval and Anna van der Breggen, just tapping out a steady rhythm here.
I just noticed another little slip there for Annika Langval. So they're just a little bit ginger around this course now. It just takes one little slip, one little crash to change your mindset to the course and how tentatively you ride. When you start to ride tentatively, you seem to make more mistakes.
They came up with the phrase themselves. It was fast but safe, and that's not sticking to that. It's a psychological tactic that the riders play with themselves and with others, is to keep repeating and keep visualizing exactly how they need to go, how they need to ride. And fast and safe is a good catchphrase, but Annika Langval made a bit of a mistake there. Perhaps she was pushing too hard. And also from the way that she pulled that bike out of the bush, a little bit of desperation and also sprinting to catch up. Not necessary, but in the heat of battle does play a role, that sense of urgency when you do fall off.
You see out of the corners, Langval re-accelerates and the gap opens up to Anna van der Breggen, and she just pedals her way back across that gap and back onto the wheel of the Super Dane, world marathon champion. And then as it gets technical again, one little corner and the gap opens up again straight to Anna van der Breggen. I think van der Breggen more comfortable on the big open long courses rather than something that's very technical or much more technical like this time trial course around the Oak Valley estate.
Certainly the learning curve of Anna van der Breggen has been pretty steep. She's enjoying herself now. We did hear her earlier say that she's looking forward to the fun single tracks, and that's certainly embracing mountain biking 100%.
There we have it. Look at our GC standings. These are before every team's come in, but we're pretty much there. Fumic and Avancini now down to 1 minute and 13 seconds, their advantage over Schurter and Foster. Ferrara and Porro now jump up into third place ahead of Uber, and steep jump, but still desperately close there. And Gesmine, Kess and Hathtley and Beers also involved in a terrific tussle.
Yeah, they've jumped their way all the way up to 6th, Hathtley and Beers, starting the day down in 8th position. So a really good ride from those two, especially considering that Matthew Beers had that heavy crash yesterday, and opened up that right hip and his right arm, and that's a great ride from those two.
This is their sort of day, happily in Beers. The terrain, the type of riding.
But Schurter and Forster, they'll take great confidence out of that. It took 1:28 in the time trial and more than halved the gap to the leaders Fumic and Avancini in GC. So they're really breathing back down their necks. And 1:13, you get on one of these steep climbs, 1:13 is 150 metres.
Yeah. It's just perfectly set up for the Queen stage tomorrow, stage 5, when we go to Stellenbosch. Some big climbs, and of course that portage down the Gantu Pass, which is going to be vitally important. They've got to jump off their bikes, carry them, run the cyclocross style down the rocks, down the trail, and it's not an insignificant distance.
It's a World Heritage Site, and there is no riding allowed down there. You'll be able to see, if you catch a good look at the wagon trail tracks, you can actually see where the wagon trails were dragged up, the big cuts in the rock. It's a really technical section, technical to run down. And we probably will see some of the riders run down, certainly if there's a gap. Maybe there'll be a truce, who knows? If there's a truce, you'll see some of the riders are walking down, taking it easy, and then the racing will start after. But knowing these top teams, especially the rivalry that's been developing between Scotsram and Cannondale, it's unlikely.
Yeah, tomorrow is a really tough stage. 100 k's, 2,850 meters of climbing, and 5 chainring day. It is the designated as the Queen stage tomorrow.
You also got the hotspot really early on. There's a climb at the 7 kilometer mark. It's a concrete strips climb, and the hotspots is about 2 climbs after that. So lots of climbing in the early stages of the race, and that hotspot will cause a split in the race, no doubt. There'll be a bit of a regrouping at the water point. Then it's up to the top of Gantu Pass. Racing is bound to explode at that point.
Incredibly stark pictures of the terrain here after the fires, and it's very recent, so a lot of these bridges that got there been rebuilt. Zanne van der Breggen and Anneke Langval illustrate just how steep this is.
You see those new bridges and also those concrete strips that they've built into the ground, and these uphill turns that are really very steep. Well, it's got the concrete strips on them, otherwise you just get no traction. It's really quite a sandy soil up through this area, and they're climbing their way up now towards the Groenland Falls. So the top of this section, they'll get just underneath the falls, take a left back down through the Blue Gums, and then across another new bridge before they start on the Groenland Steps out and away from this section, which will bring them into the last 5 kilometres of the stage.
The last 5 kilometres stage means that they've passed that 31.5 kilometre mark, and Vestex Songa Specialised having 1.5 minutes over their nearest rivals Summit Fin, and almost 3 minutes over Crossbow Racing. The battle for second spot between Summit Fin and Crossbow Racing is definitely swinging in Summit Fin's favour, having gained over 1.5 minutes. Candice Lill, Adele Maratha gained 1.5 minutes on Ariane Luthi and Maya Wyszkowska.
And it's quite surprising to see that Candice and Adele have been able to put 1.5 minutes into Maya and Ariane. We thought maybe that would go the other way today. Yesterday, Maya and Ariane had, of course, that pretty bad mechanical issue for them. They had to change a wheel, and they got one that was no good anyway. And feet out of the pedal. It's just they're very, very tight turns and quite sandy, and you know, your technical skills need to be right spot on to get through there. It's Zanne van der Breggen who seems just is struggling with those more technical sections.
Really tricky.
She's back and going pretty quick.
Tricky section, yes, and it needs a little bit of experience, a little bit of measured effort to get around these hairpin bends, and anyone can make mistakes. We saw I think a Langval make a mistake on some of the narrow single track, and anything can happen. Both riders need to be super careful to preserve that lead.
I'll come clean, I did exactly the same thing there yesterday. I got through that corner, and my front wheel went away in the sand, and as it turned sideways, you just got nowhere to go and your foot out of the pedal. So I did exactly what Anne van der Breggen just did. So I've got to say, it's an incredibly difficult section. It's maybe the most difficult section of the entire Absa Cape Epic.
There again, just rolling onto the edge of the trail, and there are those strips to aid traction on the very steepest sections of this very sandy trail.
Just the subtle techniques of navigating their way up. They'll be looking to drift into that concrete section and use as much power as they can. Even though the concrete strips are a couple of meters long, they'll put down maximum power to give themselves just a little bit of extra momentum where the just so they have that momentum over the really sandy sections where they might not have quite so much grip.
Here you can see how sandy it is, and also quite a lot of ash there from the recent fires as well. So just making it a very, very loose surface. Yeah, see how hard they're working, shifting the weight left and right on the saddle just to keep the bike lined up and on the track.
We're looking back here, this is Annika Langval, so that means that it was Annika Langval that maybe made that mistake on that corner. Could I be right?
Happens to the best. So this
makes me feel even better.
Yeah, this is just sensational, isn't it? Sitting on the wheel of these top riders in the world.
Well, here we are, Grunland Falls. You just look up to the right, you might catch a glimpse, and that's a very steep, sharp left-hander which starts to drop them back downhill here through the gum trees. And that made me feel right at home in Australia riding through here.
Yes, I'm sure you do, yeah. A rewarding part of the trail, super engaging. Riders from Cape Town and the surrounds enjoy these trails every single weekend.
Some very nice hairpins on the way down here. There's the first one of this trail. 3 or 4 more, and then they swing hard right and across a bridge, across that ravine, and then start to step their way up the Grunland steps. And the hairpins there are really cut out perfectly for riding uphill, very flat in the beginning and then kick up out of the corners.
That's the image of Teresa Ralph and her partner Sarah Hill, the new wearers of the Absa African Women's Leaders jerseys after the sad withdrawal yesterday of Amy McDougall and Sam Sanders. Amy struggling with illness and not being able to complete the stage, so very sad.
There's a virus going around, and they absolutely, Amy Beth said she just couldn't put out a single watt. We saw it run about the 15-kilometer mark, getting a push back into the group. Very early stages in the race, it was all together, and from then on it was absolutely lights out. And just retired, had to pull out after 22 kilometers.
Isn't this a strange old thing? It was Teresa Ralph and Sarah Hill who were almost inconsolable after copping a half-hour time penalty for drafting on the prologue, and now they are leading the category that they were targeting anyway. So they've got the jerseys on their backs. Long way to go though still.
Certainly a comfortable lead, yes, but anything can happen.
Well, there, look over the beautiful Elgin Valley as we flick back to the riders making their way up this single trail. I think that's Bart Brenchens and Absa.
It is. You can tell Bart Brenchens from a mile away, that distinctive rib cage of his. He must have 12-litre lungs packed into there. And looks like he's wearing a camelback, but it's just I think developed over time with Bart Brenchens so much on the bike, and
it's an old school rider.
You spot him a mile off,
and he's riding a hardtail. One of the very few riders to ride a hardtail. Most people decide to opt for the full suspension, just the not only the absorption that you get out of it, but also the traction and the ability to control the bike. Bart's a hard man, rides a hardtail.
Yeah, I haven't seen many, and actually Alessandro Pitacchi and Francesco Chicchi are also riding on hardtail bikes from their sponsor.
Absa from Brazil on the front here, and Bart Brenchens. They're leading the Grand Masters category by nearly 40 minutes, so they've got a very handy lead in that category, no problem at all for them.
At Summit Finn, we can see Candice Lill leading Delmarath on the pink bike. So they're on a good day. From the time checks, they were a minute and a half. They will be watching behind them. There's a chance that they will be caught by the Investec Songo Specialized pair, so it's the last thing they want. They don't want the blow to their morale of being caught out on the course.
Well, I think their morale will be getting even better as time goes on, because they may have expected to get caught earlier by such a dominant team of Van der Breggen and Langval. And I wonder if they already know that they've put a minute and a half into Maya.
Look at the riders there, locals that come out to support the riders on the trail here as the day progresses. A little bit of air from both our riders.
But no tail whip?
No whips. Well, they use the wood. It's staying safe and on the inside on the dirt.
Safe and fast.
No time for show.
No. And as the day progresses, the vibe out on the course and here at the finish will intensify, because the amateurs are heading out here, and a great day for their families to come and watch them. There's a guy you know quite well. Rodriguez and Hamida.
So that's Purito Rodriguez in second wheel, following his teammate, more experienced. I'll say, in fact, it's the other way round. It's Purito on the front on the climbs. It's Hermida who guides him in on the downhills, and Purito actually the stronger climber on the steep climbs, Jose Hermida was telling us.
They are similarly dominant as Berentians and Azevedo in the Dimension Data Masters Act, leading this by a country mile. And little surprise as well, because Hermida, a former world champion not too long ago, and a serial stage winner at this event. Perhaps many consider one of the best riders not to have won this race, but when he came out here, he wasn't really targeting the win here. He was still a serious cross-country racer, and the race was a little bit different in those days, perhaps suited the marathon riders a little more, so he would target a stage, usually the grand finale, as befits his personality.
And normally the stages he targeted, he won.
Yep.
And in the 80 years, he was aware of the yellow jersey, he wore the yellow jersey twice. Unfortunately, without the backup team aspect, he did lose it, and they had a mechanical one of the days, and another of those, he seemed to pick up some kind of an allergy, and literally got off the bike and could not carry on. Fortunately, was able to continue, but yellow jersey was out of the window, and that was the year that Christian Heineck and Robert Mennen, a year of big surprises.
Well, Hermida and Rodriguez, they're leading the Masters division by quite a long way over Decker and Chalingi, but they would be running on their time currently. They would be running within the top 30 in the elite men's division anyway.
Sabine Spitz, Nadine Reeder there in the white kit there, the pair of the Mirandal, the other's Rotfield team. And they have Sarah Hill and Teresa Ralph just behind them, and in front of them the Fairtree Silverback pair of Jenny Stenehag and Mariska Strauss. We've written through this lot because they started behind it. So these are some of the major contenders in the women's field, but Anneke Langval and Anna van der Breggen way up the race. There's some intense racing further down for podium positions. Sarah Hill will lead on these sort of sections. She's a very skilled descendant, has raced downhill, and the good cross-country racer Teresa Ralph is unashamedly a marathon racer. That's her strength and her passion. Well, Sabine Spitz has done it all 3 Olympic medals to her name.
And there's our race village there in the distance, top picture in the middle.
Well, the fact that Galileo Risk are behind the Mirandal team means that they've been caught and passed on the course by Sabine Spitz. There was a 3-minute start advantage. Galileo Risk and Sabine Spitz and Nadine Reeder have made that up. Notably how carefully they've left the gap there. This team have been penalised. They're penalised half hour after the prologue. They were seen to be drafting the team. It was the decision of the commentator to dock them half hour. Very careful to leave a gap today.
Well, Sabine Spitz so experienced. She has come in with a young partner. She's done that before, and they've ridden themselves in.
And go 5 kilometres to go, and it's one of the most fun parts of the course through this forest, really flowing, smooth track. So all the riders, they're really loving this last 5 kilometres of the course. It is just so nice to ride, and they're out there having a lot of fun.
Absolutely, that's what it's about. Why we ride our bikes. Robbie, why did you start riding a bike?
Purely for fun. Yeah. That's how I did it all the way through. I had a couple of days in there that weren't as fun.
Yeah.
But for most, that's what it's all about.
And you still ride it. I think that there are a lot of former professional sportsmen in various other sports who put down their kit and never touch it again. Cyclists never stop riding.
No, once a rider, always a rider. And when you've been involved in maybe a team sport like rugby, well, it's pretty hard to go. You got your boots on, you got your ball, and then okay, where is everyone? I've got to organise the game. And they can hardly walk anymore after they've had a long career. So cycling is just one of those things. A great thing to do in a group or on your own. Get out on trails, have fun, go for a road ride, and it's brilliant.
And still the competitive edge. We've seen some of the road riders in the Masters category, and they still have that nose for a bit of a competition, and fighting it out with Jose Hermida and Carita Rodriguez.
Maya Wojtowska on the front here for the cross spur racing team. Ariane Luti behind her, lost copious amounts of time yesterday, looking to make up some of that to get back right into the competitive edge of the field. 29 minutes, I think, was their gap back to the overall leaders. And again, a combination of a out-and-out cross-country racer, although Maya has ridden marathons, but she's still very competitive at the highest level of the World Cup circuit. And Ariane Luti, who has dipped her toes into the World Cup arena every now and again, but this is her domain.
What I love about this pairing is no matter what happens, they come in and tell their story with a smile on their face. They love it. And we're talking about it's just fun. People ride the bike for fun, and no matter what happens, they take the good with the bad and come in smiling.
So this is Team Summit, and again, Candice looking over her shoulder. She's done a lot of that in the last 4 or 5 Ks. Clearly Adelaide is on a bit of a rough day today, and Candice is feeling super strong.
Well, she's going quite well because they had closed in a minute and a half of the original gap at the start that they had behind Ariane and Maya. So they're doing a great ride, these two, and surely it is really starting to hurt Adele.
Candice so smooth, the former bronze medalist in the World Cup and the World Championships. Whereas Gurig, and I think this is Thomas Frischneck.
Yeah, Thomas and Urs teamed up last year already in the Grand Masters, and back again for a bit more punishment. I had a chat to Urs yesterday, and he said he's just loving it. He's another guy who's just always got a smile on his face. He's just glad to be out there and teamed up with a legend of the sport in Thomas Frischneck.
Legend of the sports, many-time world champion, and also the founder of the Swiss Epic. So he's got his eye on a few fires, but didn't want to miss his chance to come out and enjoy the Western Cape on a mountain bike.
Well, also running the team, he's the team boss of Nino Schurter and Lars Förster, also looking after his own son, André Frischneck, who changed teams, start of the week right before the race started, and they made the decision that Förster should team up with Nino, and it looks like it's been the perfect decision.
Back with our women's leaders, after having a look at the dimension data masters there, that strapped knee tells us that's Anna van der Breggen on the front there. Slightly different demands on her body as would have been on the road bike, bike setup, absolutely crucial.
Yeah, very different sort of bike, a different pedalling action. You don't have that same completely smooth pedalling action, and there's big changes in intensity to punch over those little technical sections, those steep parts, or ride your way out of a situation in the sand. So a lot more different demands on the body, not to mention just the roughness of the track. And it was actually interesting the other day to hear Annika come in and say, I can't feel my hands and my arms, they're killing me, it was so rough. And Anna said, I feel okay. So obviously her technique is really quite good. We've seen her struggle a couple of times, but overall, she's just such a versatile rider.
Part of being a professional is adapting to your environment, and if it means racing on the cobblestones, you need to learn how to do that. And some riders just are that talented, they can adapt to anything.
Well, that does translate very well to the mountain bike. If you can ride well on the cobbles, it's that letting the bike flow, not gripping it too tight. You don't want to strangle the handlebars. You just let everything ride a little bit and not grip it too tight. And at the end of the week, that saves you a whole lot of fatigue.
This is where the course really gets very close. You can see the riders making their way up that initial climb up at the start. Those are amateurs and age groupers leaving, and this is the drop down to the finish.
Well, still a huge lineup here at the start of teams ready to make their way out onto the course. So it's going to be an all-day affair. Our first teams went off at 6:45 this morning. They're going to be heading out for a couple of hours yet. And of course a 4-hour, 15-minute limit on completing the course. That is the cut-off of the day.
Yeah, 650 teams starting the ride week. Probably 50 of those are no longer complete. In other words, one rider has dropped out for one reason or another, and the other has continued on and may continue on wearing using a blue number. No official finish, although you can show that blue number off at the end at Val de Vie if you get there with it and say, well, I did finish the Absa Cape Epic. But that's the lion's share of this event, is the amateur rider, as we look at the professionals now. Van der Breggen leads over that little stile and into this beautiful flowing single track. It'll take them closer to home.
Back into the sounds of silence. There's only around 2.5, 3 kilometres to go now. And this will be a trail they recognise well. They've ridden it a couple of times now on stage 2. This was only around 1.5 kilometres to go. But as we said earlier, they get within a distance they can smell the village, they can smell the barbecue here at the finish line, and then they turn right and go back away up a really steep farm track around the top of the dam, and then make their way back down to the finish down the glasshouse effect descent.
Which they won't mind too much today, that little extra loop, because they know they've got a really short day. These riders will be home and hosed by about 10:30. Well, it's completely home and hosed by 10:30. They'll be home a little bit earlier than that, and they've got a long day to recover and rest and sleep if needs be, have the massage, have a good meal, and prepare for tomorrow.
It's a semi-recovery day, and for those who are not riding for general classification, they can really afford to just cruise through it, save the legs as much as possible, and think about tomorrow's difficult stage to Stellenbosch, because it is a 5-star stage. 100 kilometres, 2,850 metres of climbing tomorrow, so that'll be in the back of the mind of many a team going out on this time trial. They'll be looking to take it as easy as possible.
Look at this pace being dished out by Anna van der Breggen and Annika Langval. They've sensed home now, and they are absolutely powering through.
I think this is something, a whole new dimension for Annika Langval. We've seen her in past editions. She's been the dominator, the one driving the team, forcing the pace, nursing her teammate, but hurting them. But this time, it's doing a lot of the making it. She is on her limit.
Absolutely. Just up that little turn there, that little guy. Anna just rode up there, no problem. Annika was out of her saddle. I've got to get back up there.
We've seen in the first days, it's the skills of Annika who's been sort of gapping off Anna a little bit, but as fatigue sets in, that acceleration isn't quite there anymore, and it seems that Anna is really coming into her own as a stage race rider, and she is such a fantastic pro on the road, and that physiology, she's just translating that straight onto the mountain bike.
And we saw the body language at the finish. In the interviews, Anna van der Breggen was standing up and just quite stoically saying how it was, and I think Langval sitting down and really struggling, a little bit out of breath perhaps. And we did hear a little bit of maybe gave away too much, where Anna van der Breggen said that yes, Annika had a better day today, meaning that the previous few days were not quite going according to plan in terms of the physical output.
Well, you do get that, and that's what makes this team racing so intriguing. One will have a good day, the other will be on a bad day, but if you both have a good day at the same time, it's exactly what you need to make an all-out assault on the overall. But it's often just a balancing act of nursing the weaker, because they might be the stronger tomorrow, and you can't afford to go and punish your teammate, because when you're on a bad day and they're on a good one, if things start to fall apart within the team, well, they'll put the hurt on. We've seen it before, and it's really not the way to ride a team race, but it does happen.
And they know it, and the rivals know it, and the little rivalry that's going on, rather the big rivalry that's going on between Enrico Mancini and Nino Schurter, they are acutely both aware that if they rile each other up, they could end up breaking their partners, and that's really what they're aiming for.
Oh, we sit behind Mariska Strauss and Jenny Stennerhag.
A good steady effort from these two. They were fourth at the 31.5 kilometer mark, at 3 minutes 20 off Investec Songra Specialized. Only 2 seconds off Crossbow Racing. So they're on a good day if they're matching the likes of Ariane Luti and Maya Waszkowska.
Just a reminder of our leading time today, last faster. Nino Schurter, 1 hour, 38 minutes and 40 seconds. 1 minute and 28 seconds back on Enrico Mancini and Manuel Furniture, Cannondale Factory Racing. Louis Meyer and Johnny Catania will be on the podium today, 2 minutes and 23 seconds down for William. And Waszkowska and Luti chipping away at the deficit. Second until yesterday on the GC.
And they're going to be looking towards tomorrow for a better day. Today really didn't seem like it was their day. Losing time to Summit Finn, having lost over a minute and a half already at the 31 kilometer mark. Let's try and work out at the finish. We're going to see some finish interviews. We're going to try and decipher exactly what's going on in that team. Ariane Luti looks to be taking the back seat on that flat section. Looks like Maya is the stronger partner today, certainly.
Well, they are 6 minutes behind Candice Hill and Adelaide Morat going into today's stage. So they can try and eke back that. But we know Lil and Morat look to be on a really, really good day.
In this climb here, talking of the dominant partner and the partner who's just not quite as strong as the other. Seems like Anna van der Breggen is the stronger rider today. She's been setting the pace on the flat section, setting the pace on the climb, and even on the single track she's been in the lead. So interesting to see the body language again. Try and work out exactly what's going on in that team dynamic.
Well, head up this hill, go round the dam and into that dam, and then drop down into the final little sector, the hothouse effect. Well, we might be able to follow them with that meaty e-bike, that Bull's e-bike. And a slow drag up here. It's been a monstrous effort again from Anneke Langwall and Anna van der Breggen. They ride for the same trade team on the road. They have done at the start of this year. Anneke only signed with them late last year with the eye of doing a few road races early this year, because the World Cup season only starts in May, so there's plenty of time for her to get some racing in.
But certainly you wouldn't want to sacrifice an athlete like that. Specialized factory racing team, no doubt being a driving force behind the lending and the borrowing. You know, that trade team, the Bill Stormon's team, it's the best, we could arguably say they're one of the best teams in the world. And to have the talents and likes of Anneke Langwall with her, she's paid off. She's already paid herself her salary with a fantastic performance in the Strada Bianchi, coming second, powering up that last climb. Amazing to see.
Only perhaps the other woman regarded as the next best rider in the world at the moment, only Van Vleuten beat her there. So yeah, some serious talent here. Heading down towards the hothouse effect, and this is the leading team, the last women's team to leave this morning. Candice Lill and Adelaide Morat should be making their way into the finish very, very shortly.
Mariska Strauss and Jenny Steenhaag across the line, 2 hours and 6 minutes for their time trial. And our leaders, you can see them there, a few metres apart down Glasshouse Effect. He's just about to go over the big tree in one of the corners.
Oh, there they are, Silverback Fair Tree in, Strauss and Steenhaag. I'm fairly pleased with what they've done today.
And what's also notable is they have a good morale on the team. They know how important it is to keep positive, and we have Nadine Reeder. She's following Sabine Spitz into the finish.
Good ride from them.
Well, they come in at 2 minutes and 44 down on Mariska and Jenny. So the order across the line is at the moment the order on the time board. Of course, that looks set to be smashed in a few moments' time when the Investec Songo Specialised team of Van der Breggen and Langwall come in. So now Langwall on the front.
Looks like Galileo Risk are on their way in the leaders in the All-African Jersey competition. They're around about 5 minutes back off the pace, and Silverback Fairtree goes straight to the hot seat. They're going to be sitting down, having a rest, and enjoying their moment in the sun. No doubt to be bumped off it by the coming teams.
Well, third team across the line in the women's category, Sarah Hill and Teresa Ralph at 5 minutes and 18 seconds off fastest time so far of Strauss and Steenhaag.
They're in the hot seat for now. Jenny Steenhaag and Mariska Strauss, 2 hours, 6 minutes and 26 ahead of Spitz and Reeder, 2:43 down. And in pretty good spirits. It's, well, you seldom see Mariska with anything other than a smile and a laugh.
Enjoying the comfort of the hot seat rather than collapsing onto the grass here in the finish area.
Making that excellent recovery shake, the tasty drinks that they're about to guzzle down, and all part of putting fuel back into the muscles, protein back into the muscles, and not wasting a moment to get that back into their bodies for tomorrow.
Wojtowska and Luti drilling it home for teams Cross Spur. They're home, and we'll get it
top of the table.
Top of the table.
Yes, they're going to be bumping.
No longer in the hot seat.
Not long to sit in the hot seat.
By 39 seconds.
An interview will have to wait to see exactly how well the next few teams come in. Summit Fin still to arrive.
They'll eke out as much of the shade as they possibly can, Jenny and Mariska, on what is becoming a really warm day after a chilly start here at Oak Valley. Beautiful weather today. Spectacular place to spend the day watching these mountain bikers. A little stutter through that tricky corner there for Van der Breggen. But again, Langfall having to make up the small deficit. There's a 2:05.46, 39 seconds, the gap back to Stenach and Strauss. So Luty and Rostovska just trying to get back some of the time they've lost. Here's Summit Finn, Lil and Morav. A really good day out for them. Is it good enough? It is. Top of the time boards there. By 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes, 2 seconds we've got on that time board. So Team Crossbow Racing, it's a prestigious thing to sit in that hot seat, and they've kind of missed their chance because before they've even got into it, they've had to get up again.
Yeah, they haven't even managed to get the seats. In fact, Mariska and Jenny's still in there. This is our final pairing of Langfall and Van der Breggen. They're within the last kilometre of this incredible prologue course.
Should see them within the next minute or so coming in. Keep an eye on what that time is.
Well, there we go, exactly 2 minutes back to Luty and Voschoska. So Lil and Morav, they will take over the hot seat. In fact, Aliana and Maya didn't even get a chance to sit in it. And if Lil and Morav aren't quick, then they won't get a chance to sit themselves down. There they go.
Having said that, they made sure.
They want to have their moment of glory in the comfortable couch.
Get the picture taken. Will we have time for an interview? I doubt it, because the leaders are making their way in
here they are.
To the finish. Here they are. Here they are, our leaders, Anneke Langvall and Anna van der Breggen cross the line, and they cross the line
1:44 we've got.
So 1 minute and 44 seconds at the gap.
Yes.
Well, they are the stage winners then. In the women's elite, once again, Investec Songo Specialized dominating the time trial, but perhaps not by as much as many might have thought, but certainly enough.
Well, along the lines of how they spoke before the start, they said, we do want to push, of course, and go for the stage win, but no huge risks, and we don't want to really burn ourselves up. They had, they know, like we do, that they're the dominant team, they can win this time trial, but they did it in, let's say, second gear.
Yeah.
They did say fast but safe, and we did see a little bit of lack of coherence there. There was a bit of gapping going on. There was that small off of Langfall, having to drag her bike back out of the bush. Not quite as smooth as we've seen in the past.
Well, maybe when you're not riding with full intensity and just thinking, well, we'll just ride a little bit in reserve, then also your concentration is very slightly lacking. You make a small mistake and she just got a front wheel off the edge of the track and went down, but
down the field, these all setting off with the team setting at literally 20-second intervals. In fact, they're rolling off together. Groups of 4 riders there rolling off pretty much together. So it's all the fun of the fair here, because it's a holiday today. There's a great vibe here, great weather.
As you're talking about picking partners for the Cape Epic, I was talking to Oscar Freire yesterday, and I said, so what was behind the decision? How did you come to ride in a mixed team? He said, well, absolutely no offence, it's not being derogatory in any way, but I chose to ride in a mixed team because I didn't want to ride with someone who was stronger than me. He said, because I'm not here for the suffering.
Okay. And he's going quite well, Oscar.
Yeah, him and his partner Natasha, they're doing very well, and they had a real crack at it yesterday, and Natasha's actually more a triathlete.
So we go to the podium. Yeah, they did really nicely. So this is the presentation of the stage winners, And the leaders' jerseys, which haven't changed today, well, that'll be taking place very, very shortly as they make their way out there. Meanwhile, teams still coming in. Oops, he's popped onto the wrong side of the course. This rider, but don't worry, you're home. You'll get a time. No faster time than 1 hour, 38 minutes and 40 seconds by that pair, Nino Schurter and Lars Foster. And they've narrowed the gap on general classification to just 1 minute and 13 seconds behind Cannondale Factory Racing. And as ever in a time trial, be it time trial or prologue, we have that team that puts its head up and says, we can do this thing, can't we, Neil?
Well, we were very interested to see that there's a new podium every day. It seems that we've got Team 7C CBZ Willia, that's Meyer and Catanea on the podium today with the likes of Scott's Ram, Mountain Bike Racing and Cannondale Factory Racing. Good performance from them. We expected a lot of them at the beginning of the race. We'd seen them perform really well out in the world circuit, and really it's good to see them get to the podium and get some TV time for themselves and for their sponsors, and get to hear what they say, because all eyes of the world will be on their comments in the interviews.
So teams rolling in after their efforts there, around about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. There's a 4 hour and 15 minute maximum time allowance today for the time trial, and so it should have pretty much everyone back by about 3:30 this afternoon, which for even the slowest of teams means a little more time to recover and prepare for tomorrow's transitional day.
It's a real treat today for the riders, and this is even the exact circuit today would be the circuit that I would come and ride on the weekend. Yep. And it's got its mix of everything, some open roads, and the main focus is on the single track.
So to our podium presentation in the UCI Elite Women's category, smiles from Lucia Rostowska again, and Adelaide Morat and Candice Hill both went really well today, those teams. Well, Mill and Morat particularly so. So there we go, Prosper in third place today. And they'll slowly chip away at the deficit from yesterday's issues, punctures, and picking up an incorrect tyre or already punctured tyre.
Lucy had a bad year last year. She had to retire from the race. Her partner, Gitty McFeels, fell ill showing today. And then South African Candice Lill and German Adele Morat on his spot up today. They were second yesterday, second again today. It's really unlikely that the pair in the middle are going to get unseated from that position.
There they go, the World Road Race Champion on the left, the World Marathon Champion in the Times of Bike on the right, and Anna van der Breggen and Anneke Langveld, a 5th stage win on the trot. They're looking impregnable at the moment. Their lead is just superb, 23 minutes, and that's our prologue result today. So Kozlowska and Luti back on the podium after yesterday's difficult day. And the orange jersey certainly won't change hands today. The racing has been intense behind them. You've heard them, they said they wanted to set out and take it fairly easy today and just keep it safe. They did have 1 or 2 close calls. Anneke went off the trail. Could have been worse if the trees hadn't been there to catch her bike. It could have stood a long way down that, but she recovered well enough. It didn't cost her too much time. So another stage win and another day in orange.
We're 5 days in and they haven't put a foot wrong, really. If you look at the result sheet says it all. It's like it's a pretty accurate prose as to what's been going on during the race. It's a pure show of dominance. They have been on the top step every single day, both receiving that leaders' jerseys, the zebra stripe jerseys from ASOS, and of course winning every single stage. Really look very dominant, and sends a message to their rivals that really doesn't look like there's much they can do.
I think, yeah, this pairing they rode 2 hours and 2 minutes, and that time would have put them firmly in the top 50 in the men's division, would have had them in 47th.
Well, there we go. Orange again for Investec Songo Specialised Undercount Langville and Anfiteatro Berg Adder. Langville, a 4-time winner of the Absa Cape Epic, has yet to know what it's like not to win this event, and Anfiteatro Berg Adder has yet not to win a stage. And every stage she's ridden, she's won the stage. So a pretty perfect record by that pair.
Well, we saw last year with Kate Court.